Konoha East Uchiha is very cautious. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226 Huge Strength. Feeling the chakra filling up to the point of exploding in his body, Meixiang ignored the scrapped scroll. He stepped onto the passage created by with his ninjutsu in one step, and his figure turned into an invisible phantom, rushing towards the obstacle that stretched for hundreds of meters, was 7 or 8 meters high, and was 2 meters thick. The Iwagakure ninja flying in the air did not give up their attack at this time because of Uchiha Asaka's senbon. They threw a large amount of detonating clay, trying to use this method to delay his movements and intercept his companions behind him. In those detonating clays, there were sometimes some huge rocks, which made Asaka a little overwhelmed. It's really endless. Looking at those Iwagakure ninjas who were only 100 or 80 meters away from the ground, Meixiang snorted coldly, and his eyes became cold. The other party was bullying them because they had no good countermeasures, and they were recklessly causing trouble for them in the sky. Did they really think that they would be fish to be slaughtered once they fell to the ground? He looked up. The magatama in his eyes kept spinning. Go! With a wave of his hand, a dozen Chidori senbon, each about half a meter long, shot towards the Iwagakure who was constantly making detonating clay in the air, and his companion. Be careful. At this time, the Iwagakure, who was excited about trying aerial bombing for the first time, finally came to his senses after hearing his companion's reminder. But he was not very worried about the opponent's ninjutsu. The distance between the two sides was 180 meters, and there was no cover between the two sides. They could see the opponent's movements clearly. He believed that his companions could do well in dodging the opponent's ninjutsu. He was an elite forbearance with great strength. Unlike his indifference, his companions who had been keeping a close eye on the movements of the Konoha ninjas below were quite cautious when they saw the lightning senbon flying towards them. He had just seen this kind of attack from the opponent in the sky. The speed was very amazing, and the penetrating power was extraordinary. If they were hit by the opponent by accident, they would be in danger. So he was ready from the beginning. However, this did not change the fate of the two of them. How could a large Chidori senbon that Toshiro fired with the help of the dynamic vision of the Sharingan be so easily dodged by the opponent? He had made advanced preparations for all the directions in which the opponent dodged. It was impossible to dodge this attack if he just dodged. Even if the opponent directly used defense to deal with his attack, he was not worried. If he couldn't even break through the opponent's defense, he wouldn't have to make so many Chidori senbon at once, just to be able to hit the target with one strike. As long as one of the senbon hit the two, even if it didn't hit the vital point, with the paralysis effect of the thunder attribute, the two guys flying in the sky would be in trouble. After firing more than 10 large Chidori senbon at once, Toshiro retracted his gaze. The opponent's fate was already determined in advance, and there was no need to pay too much attention. Wasting chakra to deal with the opponent was because the opponent's flying units, combined with the detonating clay, were too troublesome, and now he had to face the obstacle in front of him and the rock ninja behind him. Coming. After receiving the reminder from the perception ninja, behind the earthen wall, a large group of rock ninjas were waiting in full battle array. They all opened their eyes wide and stared at the thick wall. Some formed seals with their hands, some held kunai ninja swords. They were waiting for the enemy on the opposite side to jump over the wall or break through the obstacles before launching an attack. Facing this wide wall, Meixiang had no choice but to break through head-on. The whole person was like an angry lion, rushing forward with an indomitable momentum. When he came to the side of the earthen wall, Meixiang had no intention of slowing down, but carried the momentum of the sprint and punched the earthen wall. Ninjutsu? Super strength. And this punch was made with the super strength technique that he had exchanged from Orochimaru. This physical technique was not very suitable for the Uchiha style, but it was used by him, a member of the Uchiha clan, at this time, without any sense of disobedience. Coupled with the sage mode he was in now, even if Tsunade herself came, facing this punch from Toshiro, she would have to retreat. Crack, boom. As the rocks broke and the terrifying force destroyed them, there was a huge roar first, followed by a large amount of smoke and dust. This thick earthen wall, starting from the position where Toshiro punched, a large section of the wall, nearly 10 meters thick on both sides, was blown away by Toshiro's punch. It turned into a large piece of flying stone rain, splashing towards the rock ninjas who were waiting behind the wall. This made the rock ninjas who were ready to attack while Toshiro jumped over the wall or directly broke through the wall, hurriedly avoiding these stones carrying huge force. What was even more troublesome was that there were many detonating tags mixed in these stones, which also exploded at this time, causing them to be in a hurry and casualties from time to time. They had pasted these detonating tags on the wall, ready to let Dong Shilang and his friends feel the wrath of their rock ninjas, but they didn't expect that they would end up being trapped in their own trap and become the death warrant for themselves and their friends. This guy is getting more and more perverted. Uchiha and his friends who followed Dong Shilang saw with their own eyes that Dong Shilang punched a wall that was 2 meters thick and 6 or 7 meters high, and created a huge gap that was nearly 20 meters wide. Everyone was secretly shocked. They knew that their friends were strong, and they were used to it. But this time, they had a new understanding of Dong Shilang's strength. Is this really the power that humans can explode? Looking at Dong Shilang's exaggerated destructive power, Uchiha Yen couldn't help wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. There was no need for him to compete with such a pervert. He was just an ordinary person, and there was no need to cause trouble for himself. Miss Uchiha Hamura, who was arrogant, had never shown it before, but she was still somewhat unwilling to accept it. She usually set strict standards for herself, hoping that one day she could reach the level of Toshiro, or even defeat him. With Toshiro's exaggerated and perverted punch, she buried her little thoughts deep in her heart. It's not that Uchiha Hamura didn't have a competitive spirit, but she still had to set a goal to be competitive. Chapter 227 Breakout. It wasn't just Uchiha Tetsu's group. In the air, Huang Tu, who had witnessed the entire scene, couldn't control his mouth and kept twitching. At this time, he was a little doubtful about what kind of monster he had ambushed this time, but things had come to this point. There was no need to hesitate. Let's go down. Without the rock ninja who could make detonating clay, they would be useless if they continued to stay in the air. They, the rock ninja, still had to be on the ground to exert their true strength. But Beiling, who had just rescued his 2 companions and was Huang Tu's bodyguard, persuaded them. As the son of the 3rd Tsuchikage, there was really no need for him to risk his life. If something happened, they, the bodyguards, would be guilty of death. No buts. Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Huang Tu, who had a strong character, and then said, "This is a war between the rock ninja and Konoha. As the son of the Tsuchikage, how could I sit back and watch the other party break through?" Seeing that the other party was about to speak, he refused. "You don't need to persuade me. I've made up my mind." After saying this, he headed towards the direction of the rock ninja. Although he wanted to kill the enemy, he was not a foolhardy man. Otherwise, the 3rd Tsuchikage would not have let him represent him in the camp. Seeing this, Akashi, as a guard, could only follow Huang Tu closely. The honor and disgrace of their guards and their families were all tied to Huang Tu. If the other party had any mishaps, not only him, but also his family and clan behind him would be blamed. After punching open the passage, Toshiro did not stop. He stepped over the debris under his feet in 3 or 2 steps, then used his right foot to forcefully stomp heavily on the ground, creating a pit 1 meter deep and 4 or 5 meters in diameter. Then he drew out his ninja sword and rushed towards the rock ninja in the distance. Under the pit he had stepped on, there were 2 rock ninjas who were trying to attack him from underground. Being noticed by Toshiro, he was severely injured by a step. He just screamed and then fell into a coma. If he hadn't received timely help, he would not have been able to hold on for long. Toshiro, who caused all this, didn't care about it at all. Before rushing into the enemy camp, he signaled to Yen and Longyuo. Understood. After receiving Toshiro's signal, the 2 did not hesitate at all, and at the same time, they formed seals with their hands and performed their own ninjutsu. Fire style, ground-running flame fire style, meteoric flame falling from the sky as the two of them performed the spells. First, two lines of fire with a height of 3 or 4 meters shot out along the forward route of Toshiro and his group. While encircling a passage on the ground, they also changed the route to separate the rock ninjas. Those flames with a height of 3 or 4 meters did not flash by, but continued to burn. While separating the rock ninjas, even their vision was blocked by these lines of fire. This is not over yet. A huge fireball with a diameter of nearly 20 to 30 meters fell from the sky and smashed towards the place where the rock ninjas gathered. After causing a series of roars and screams, the fireball that hit the ground and then exploded did not extinguish. The flames that sputtered out continued to burn, creating a sea of fire with a diameter of 60 to 70 meters in front of them, emitting scorching heat. The rock ninjas within the sea of fire retreated one after another. If they continued to stay where they were, they would probably be roasted to death. As Dong Shilang and his group approached, the sea of fire, under the control of Uchiha Yen, made way for only a few of them to pass through. You guys, don't underestimate the rock ninjas. Just when Dong Shilang and his group were about to rush out of the sea of fire, a rock ninja jonin attacked them with a knife in both hands, and kept roaring. It seemed that he was inspired by the rock ninja and did not follow the arrogant behavior of Toshiro and his men. Behind him, a dozen ninjas gathered and took out their weapons to attack Toshiro, the leader. The only way Toshiro could respond to his opponent was with his ninja sword. Swish! The chakra on his feet gathered and then exploded. In the sage mode, the instant body movement he performed was as fast as a stream of light. The rock ninja on the opposite side could not catch the trajectory of his attack at all. Clang! Sparks flew. The sound of the two ninja swords colliding with each other could be heard from a distance. That was close. The jonin who stood up to try to stop Toshiro and his men could not catch Toshiro's attack trajectory. However, relying on his intuition gained from years of struggling between life and death, he successfully blocked Toshiro's instant body movement at the last critical moment. Although he successfully blocked Toshiro's attack, he made a fatal mistake at this time. The sense of urgency of his life hanging by a thread made him turn his head involuntarily and look at Dong Shilang, who was swinging his sword at him. Just by turning his head, his entire field of vision was occupied by a pair of scarlet sharingan. Then he felt that his shoulders, spine and hips were nailed to the spot by huge stone nails. It was Dong Shilang who performed the golden binding illusion through the sharingan. He gently swung his sword. He harvested the life of the Iwagakure who was trapped in the illusion and unable to move. Dong Shilang did not stop at all and rushed to the Iwagakure ninjas in front of him. Ah, be careful, don't come over. Unlike the Iwagakure jonin just now, the opponent relied on his rich experience and intuition to block Dong Shilang's lightning-fast sword. He had to stay for a moment and spend more effort. The Iwagakure ninjas behind him were only at the level of Chunin or Special Jonin. They had almost no chance to fight against Dong Shilang. Swish! A dazzling blade flashed. The last Iwagakure who stood in front of him, along with his companions behind him, were beheaded by Toshiro with one strike. There were no more Iwagakure ninjas blocking his way. He continuously burst out chakra and used the instant body slash to kill these Iwagakure ninjas. The whole process took less than 10 seconds. The speed was so fast that Uchiha Tetsu and Hamura who followed behind him were caught off guard. Even their companions who had worked together for many years had never seen Toshiro's full power burst, so they were inevitably a little surprised at this time. Chapter 228, Light and Heavy Rock Technique. Kill the rock ninja blocking him. Dong Shilang did not stop and continued to break out. He did not dare to waste any time. When he landed on the ground, he had already sensed the situation nearby. Although there was only this team of rock ninja in front of him, there were nearly 200 rock ninja within a range of 2 or 3 kilometers. Among them, there were many with chakra reactions that reached the level of jonin. If they could not leave the area quickly, once they were tripped by these rock ninja, there would be a steady stream of enemies gathering around. This was also because the rock ninja could not determine the landing location of Dong Shilang and his team, so they scattered around the camp. in order to be able to kill Dong Shilang and his team, who successfully made an emergency landing at this time. What's that sound? When Dong Shilang just killed these rock ninja, a series of rumbling sounds came from the front. Along with this sound, there was also the vibration of the earth. Fuck. Looking up, a curse came out. It's not that Toshiro is surprised by what he has seen before. It's just that there is a huge figure about 300 to 400 meters ahead of them, stepping towards Toshiro and his group. Facing the rising sun, from the southeast, a yellowish-brown giant with a height of nearly 40 meters and a body made entirely of rocks appeared in Toshiro and his group's vision. Earth escape, rock colossus. With just one glance, Toshiro knew the name of the ninjutsu the other party was performing. At the same time, in Toshiro's mind, his own dance king used his own Gundam to entertain the second Tsuchikage and the young third Tsuchikage, who came to Konoha to sign a peace agreement. In the young heart of the third Tsuchikage, a deep and lingering shadow was left, and the picture that he couldn't forget emerged. He seriously suspected that the third Tsuchikage developed the rock ninja version of the Gundam just because of this. But he didn't expect that the ones who would suffer retribution in the end would be the younger generations like them. What should we do? Continue to break out from here? Seeing this scene, Dong Shilang's companions behind him took a breath of cold air. Just by looking at the opponent's ninjutsu, you can tell that it is not easy to deal with. Perhaps breaking out in another direction is the best choice for them. It's too late. The nearby rock ninjas have begun to surround us. Hearing the question raised by Long Huo, Dong Shilang did not directly reject it. He closed his eyes and sensed it for a while, and answered softly, "I will try to delay the opponent, and you find a chance to break out. I will find you later." Glancing at his companions, Dong Shilang made up his mind. He and the others grew up together, fought and grew up together, and the relationship over the years has more or less influenced him. How can this be? You were performing that ninjutsu all night yesterday, and now there is not much chakra left. How can we leave you behind and escape? Hearing Dong Shilang's words, his companions did not feel relieved, but began to hate their own powerlessness. "Do you think I'm running out of chakra now?" Dong Shilang was quite relieved by the words of his companions, but it wouldn't make much difference if they stayed. Akaya Yen, who had just spoken, suddenly got stuck in the face of Dong Shilang's light words. The state that the other party just showed was not like chakra exhaustion at all. It's not an exaggeration to say that the state was off the charts. There's no time to hesitate. The opponent's attack is coming. As Dong Shilang's voice fell, a whimpering sound of air being squeezed came from a distance. Just by looking up, you can see that a huge rock with a diameter of nearly 3 meters is flying towards their location. Seeing this scene, Dong Shilang couldn't help but twitch his eyes. As far as he knew, the weight of the rock was about 1.66 tons per cubic meter. Such a huge rock had a volume of at least 10 cubic meters. It fell towards him from 300 or 400 meters away. Dong Shilang didn't dare to imagine the potential energy it carried. He doubted whether his ancestral Gundam could withstand such an attack. "You go first." After telling his companions, Dong Shilang went to meet the rock giant. But before Dong Shilang walked far, there was a loud bang of a huge heavy object falling to the ground, and the trembling of the earth came from behind him. This was not the end. After the rocks fell to the ground, they were smashed into stones of varying sizes, splashing dozens or hundreds of meters away. At the same time, some larger stones continued to roll forward, leaving cracks several meters deep on the ground. It's really exaggerated, this kind of power. Even the so-called super-caliber cannon in the previous life is no more than this. Glancing at the place where he and others had just stood, the deep marks plowed by the gravel and the exaggerated deep pit, he couldn't help but feel fortunate that he and his companions left in time, and they also had the blood limit called Sharingan. Otherwise, with a sigh, Dong Shilang turned his sight to the huge rock giant. Just then, the other party placed his arm on the ground, and then a stone ball with a diameter of 3 meters appeared in the hand of the rock giant. Then, this huge stone ball was thrown high into the sky by the rock giant, and then fell towards Dong Shilang with the gravity. Is it the light and heavy rock technique? Dong Shilang saw the whole process of the other party's technique through his Sharingan, and he had a general understanding of the other party's means. Huang Tu should have used his chakra directly to transform the soil on the ground into a stone ball. and then the other party used the light and heavy rock technique to reduce the weight of the stone ball and threw it into the sky. When the stone ball began to fall, the effect of the ninjutsu was almost exhausted, and a stone ball weighing 20 to 30 tons, falling from the sky, carries a huge force that is simply beyond the imagination of ordinary people. The most troublesome thing is that after it falls to the ground, it will scatter stones of varying sizes and splash around. The range of the splashing stones covered an area as large as 2 football fields. Damn, this time it's in danger. He really deserves to be the son of the Tsuchikage, the father of the leg Kage, and the man who can fight against the outer path statue in the future. Looking at the rock giant walking towards him and the figure standing on his shoulder, Toshiro knew that he had met his match this time. There are only 3 chapters, and the author is taking a break. Thank you for the tip from the snail who wants to read a good book. Chapter 229 Rock Colossus. Did you dodge it? Looking at the figure in the distance who was light and dodged the splashing stones, Huang Tu murmured softly and didn't take it to heart. Controlling the rock giant under him, he grabbed a stone ball from the ground again and threw it towards the figure in the distance. However, with the opponent's speed, this would be his last long-range attack. In fact, it was similar to what Dong Shilang observed. He did use the light and heavy rock technique and the rock giant under him to throw the stone ball at them. Although the method is simple, coupled with the potential energy carried by the stone ball when it fell, its power should not be underestimated by anyone. Not only now, Huang Tu and his companions were thrown into the air by Dong Shilang and others by this ninjutsu. However, what he manifested just now was only one arm of the rock giant, but now the entire rock giant has been made by him. Earth escape middle. Yellow Spring Swamp. Seeing that the one rushing towards him, he had already approached the rock giant and waited until the other party entered his surroundings. Looking down at Dong Shilang's loess, a large swamp with a depth of 4 or 5 meters was created, which wrapped the rock giant and Dong Shilang together. For the rock giant, the swamp with a depth of only 4 or 5 meters only submerged the calves, and there was no significant impact at all. But for Dong Shilang, it was a bit troublesome. Water escape middle. Great waterfall technique. Facing such a large-scale swamp trap, Dong Shilang had no better way. He could only create a large area of water to submerge the entire swamp. Then the whole person stood on the water, but before he could breathe a sigh of relief, a huge arm, with a whirring sound, slapped Dong Shilang. Swish. Facing this arm that was sweeping towards him, Dong Shilang could only jump into the air helplessly to avoid it. It was not that he wanted to choose this way to avoid it, but the rock arm that was coming towards him was across the entire water surface. If he didn't jump, he couldn't avoid it at all. Earth-style, rock cannon. When he jumped into the air, the giant mouth of the rock giant that could swallow a whole cow and horse opened wide, and a large number of stones as big as a table rushed towards Dong Shilang. Fire-style, Great Dragon Fire technique. Facing Huang Tu's attack, Dong Shilang could only use this ninjutsu to defend against the rocks coming towards him on the one hand, and attack the Huang Tu on the shoulder of the rock giant on the other hand. Facing Dong Shilang's high-level fire-style attack, the rock giant controlled by Huang Tu bent his arms to block in front of him. At the same time, his figure changed, leaving the previous standing position, and appeared from the other shoulder of the rock giant. And Dong Shilang's Great Dragon Fire technique, in addition to blocking the opponent's ninjutsu attack, also destroyed one of the rock giant's arms. But that was all. While Huang Tu was dodging, Dong Shilang also landed on the ground. In his hand, he was wielding a giant Chidori sharp spear that was more than 10 meters long and half a meter wide, and slashed at the legs of the rock giant. Swish. A not very obvious sound was heard. Then the entire rock giant slowly fell to the side because of the loss of balance on its legs. Don't even think about it. Seeing this scene, Huang Tu, who appeared on the other shoulder of the rock giant, gritted his teeth and said. At the same time, he formed a seal in his hand, controlling the underwater mud, which flowed to the feet of the rock giant and slowly turned into 2 supporting feet. Dong Shilang, who saw the other party responding in this way, directly dispersed the giant Chidori sharp spear in his hand and went towards Huang Tu. Since the other party can repair this rock giant, it is better to attack Huang Tu who controls it directly than to attack it in vain. Without Huang Tu's control, This huge rock giant is just a pile of ordinary stone and soil. Whoosh! After dodging the other rock arm that grabbed him, Dong Shilang came to the rock giant's arm, exerted force with his feet, and tried to rush to the lowest. However, Dong Shilang's feet just landed on the rock giant, and he felt something unusual under his feet. It's clay. Feeling the sluggishness on his feet, Dong Shilang looked down and saw that his feet were already wrapped in a layer of mud, and now they had sunk 10 centimeters. That's not all. The mud that wrapped his feet was also incredibly sticky, making it difficult for him to walk now. A big reason why Dong Shilang didn't find the trap under his feet was that the entire rock giant was materialized from Lois, and a large amount of chakra was attached to its surface. Even if its surface was covered with a layer of clay, there was nothing unusual in his Sharingan and he couldn't find any clues. I'm still too young and have too little combat experience. Dong Shilang had already reacted at this time and realized that he had just fallen into the opponent's trap. The other party had just repaired the legs of the rock giant in order to make him understand that attacking the rock giant was useless. In this way, he was lured to attack his body. This was also because the opponents he had faced over the years were not strong enough, at most at the level of elite jonin, and lacked experience in fighting with top-level strongmen like them. Otherwise he would not have fallen into the trap of the other party so easily. Earth escape middle dot and held before Dong Shilang could react. Huang Tu changed the seal in his hand and performed another earth escape ninjutsu. Then, the entire rock giant's right hand began to disintegrate rapidly. It turned into mud and swarmed towards Dong Shilang, as if it wanted to wrap him up in it. Lightning escape middle dot Chidori flow. Feeling the stickiness and suffocation brought by the clay that wrapped his whole body, Dong Shilang could only hope that the Chidori flow ninjutsu could use the characteristics of thunder soil to help him destroy the stickiness of the mud on the surface of his body so that he could break the opponent's killing situation. Squeak, squeak, squeak. As Tawashiru performed his ninjutsu and his own senjutsu chakra burst out, a sharp bird song came from the clay ball that wrapped Tawashiru. Then, the soft and sticky clay on his body slowly lost its stickiness and then collapsed. Although Nijira is not good at pretending, the ninjutsu he developed is still good. Using Chidori style, an attack and defense ninjutsu, he successfully escaped. Tawashiru couldn't help but sigh. At the same time, he was glad that he copied Kakashi and Sasuke's ninjutsu, otherwise, he would be in trouble this time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230 Difficult. Under the morning light, a huge rock giant stood in the middle of the battlefield full of swamps and water stains. Next to the rock giant, a large group of mud and stone gathered together, which was disintegrating rapidly. It can be seen vaguely that a figure wearing a green vest was wrapped in it. This person was Uchiha Tawashiru, who came to drag the Lois and tried to let his companions break through. The rock giant in front of him was already missing arms and legs, and looked very embarrassed. Fortunately, mud was constantly gathering under him at this time to fill the damage on his body. He had just escaped from the earth escape middle dot ant hell after adding Lois, and before he could catch his breath, a rock arm with a length of nearly 20 meters swung his fist at him. From the pits and charred marks on the huge arm, it can be seen that it had just suffered from severe burning and impact from the fire escape. However, these did not affect the large amount of wind pressure and the huge force it carried when it swung its fist. Super strength fist. He didn't care about the mud on his body that had lost its characteristics and was out of control due to the interference of the lightning chakra. Facing the powerful punch of the rock giant, Dong Shilang directly burst out his own chakra, shaking off the mud attached to his body, and then punched tit for tat. At this moment, it was useless to make hand seals and perform substitution techniques. All he could do was to block the opponent's attack. The method was simple and rough, using fists to fight fists. Ka, bang, one big and one small, one white and one black. As the two fists with seriously unbalanced sizes collided, Dong Shilang once again burst out his strongest punch, and collided with the giant fist of the rock giant controlled by Huang Tu, which was nearly 2 meters in diameter. First, the fist of the rock giant shattered because it could not withstand the terrifying force carried by both fists, and then exploded. Then Dong Shilang's entire body, because of his own body, could not withstand the huge reaction force brought by this punch, and was thrown far away. During the process, he had to constantly evade and dodge the scattered rubble. He was in a state of extreme embarrassment. Cough. As soon as he landed, Dong Shilang coughed uncontrollably, and a trace of blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. It was obvious that he had been injured by the punch just now. He usually had the strength of an elite jonin. Now that he was in the sage mode, his speed, defense, recovery, etc. had made great progress, but they had not reached an inhuman level. Although his physical fitness had reached the level of a shadow, he still lacked combat experience. He had just been tricked by Huang Tu, who had controlled the rock giant to fly 70 or 80 meters with one punch. It was inevitable that he had suffered some injuries. This was because he was now in the sage mode, and his ability to resist blows had been greatly enhanced, so he was able to withstand the opponent's violent attack. It's not a big deal. Huang Tu, who was standing on the shoulder of the rock giant and observing Dong Shilang's condition, saw that the other party was not seriously injured, and a flash of surprise appeared on his face. When he was controlling the rock giant to throw this punch, he used the earth-style rock fist technique. He didn't expect that even this violent attack didn't get rid of the enemy. It was really beyond his expectations. Want to leave? How can it be that easy? Huang Tu, who was on a high place, not only saw Toshiro coughing. At the same time, he also saw Yan and his group of people who were trying to use Toshiro's cover to pass through the yellow spring swamp in the distance. How could they break out? Although the rounds of battle between Toshiro and Huang Tu seemed to last a long time, it actually didn't last long. Even Yan and his group were not out of Huang Tu's ninjutsu range at this time. He once again controlled the rock giant's big hand to press on the ground. As the huge rock arm was raised, there was another huge stone ball in its palm, and then this giant was thrown in the direction of Yan and his group. Although this place was covered with a swamp, the mud wave raised by the huge rock when it fell to the ground was enough to make the opponent drink a pot, so he still chose this long-range attack method. This is really troublesome, seeing that Huang Tu still wanted to continue sniping his companion. Dong Shilang had a headache. How could he tolerate the other party being so reckless and ignoring the less than half of his remaining senjutsu chakra? He directly formed a seal and began to perform ninjutsu. Fire style, great fire extinction. As Dong Shilang completed the seal, a straight flame spit out from his mouth, crossing a distance of 70 or 80 meters and heading towards this huge target. The fiercely burning chakra, the amazing speed and high temperature, caused the front end of the ninjutsu to form a protrusion shaped like an arrow due to the fierce friction with the air and the subsequent flame impact. And it pierced into the body of the rock giant. Facing Dong Shilang's fire-style attack, Huang Tu was worthy of being the son of the third-generation Uchiha. He directly controlled the giant under him and slapped the ground with one palm. Then the soft swamps on the ground immediately surged and piled up into a tall stone wall, blocking Dong Shilang's attack. However, how could the fire escape that Dong Shilang had specially used to block Huang Tu's technique be so easily resisted? The stone walls that had just formed only lasted for a few seconds before they were melted into orange-red magma of the same color as the flames by the amazingly high temperature carried by Dong Shilang's ninjutsu, and then burned through a large hole. Moreover, with the continuous output of Dong Shilang's chakra, this ninjutsu did not stop. But after burning through the obstacle, it continued to attack the rock giant behind him. As expected of an Uchiha, seeing that the barrier he created was directly broken through by the opponent, Huang Tu looked at the orange-red lava that splashed out with the opponent's ninjutsu and praised Dong Shilang. Although this stone wall was made in a hurry, its original composition was the yellow spring swamp that he created, plus the change in the nature of his own chakra, in addition to its amazing thickness and area. I thought I could easily block the opponent's ninjutsu, but I didn't expect it to be melted into magma by the high temperature of the opponent's ninjutsu. The lava has become a weapon for the other party, so you have to be careful. The Uchiha clan is good at fire escape, and it is really well deserved. Chapter 231 Sneak Attack. 6 meters ahead of the landing point, dodge. Facing this long-range attack from the Lois, Uchiha had no good way except to dodge. Whether it was a thick obstacle or a substitute technique, it would not have any effect on this. It would be crushed directly. What's more troublesome is that they are now at the edge of the yellow spring swamp created by the Lois. If they are not careful, they will be swallowed by this deadly trap. Boom! A muffled sound of heavy objects falling to the ground was heard, followed by a large amount of mud splashing out. This is not the end. Following the splashing mud, there were layers of mud waves that flooded them like waves. Being in the range of the yellow spring swamp, being attacked by this kind of attack has good sides, but also bad sides. If one handles it well, being drowned by these surging mud waves, if no companions come to rescue, it will be a very desperate thing. Earth Escape Middle. Earthquake Core performing this ninjutsu to raise the land, thereby rescuing the companions in danger. Uchiha breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the second nature that he chose to cultivate was the earth attribute instead of something else. Otherwise Long Yuo and Yen would have been in danger just now. The two of them were washed into the swamp by the waves that followed them just after they landed. If it weren't for his help, they might still be trying to save themselves at this time. It's really exaggerated seeing the huge deep mark that was hundreds of meters long and 7 or 8 meters deep caused by the stone ball thrown by the Lois in front of them. They all looked at each other in surprise. Even though they had just seen this level of destructive power, they still felt powerless when facing it again. Let's go. If we stay here, we can only hold Dong Shilang back. There is no point glancing at Dong Shilang's location. What caught his eye was the orange red flames that were dazzling even under the shining of the morning sun. Uchiha turned around and stated a fact to his companions, and then led them through this swamp. This was a gap that Dong Shilang had created with a lot of chakra, so how could he not cherish it? Facing Dong Shilang's fire escape, Huang Tu had no way to ignore it. He manipulated the rock giant to turn around and block the surging flames and some of the lava that splashed along with it. In that case, then you stay here and be buried with the rock ninja. Seeing that the opponent tried to let his companions break through, Huang Tu made up his mind to keep this powerful Uchiha here. Compared with the enemy in front of him, those who escaped were not worth mentioning at all. He put his hands together and adjusted his chakra, and then Huang Tu also pressed his hands on the stone man's shoulders. Through its conduction, the swamps below him rose and fell, and then gathered together to form a huge wave, which fell down in the direction of Dong Shilang. The reason why he consumed a lot of chakra and created a yellow spring swamp was, on the one hand, to prevent the enemy from breaking through, and on the other hand, to be able to use this swamp for his own use in the battle. Huang Tu's attack not only blocked Dong Shilang's ninjutsu, but also forced Dong Shilang to stop casting spells and start dodging the opponent's attacks. He didn't want to try it again. The feeling of being wrapped in mud. It's all the fault of our own dancing king. Dong Shilang couldn't help but complain while dodging. He never thought that he, and Uchiha, didn't drive a Gundam in front of others. Instead, he was shown off by Huang Tu's Gundam, and had to hide from him. He really didn't have any good way to deal with this rock giant. If he fought it from a distance, the opponent would probably give him a heavenly justice. If he wanted to attack Huang Tu with a close attack, he had just tried it again, and he didn't know what traps the opponent had waiting for him. He looked up at the sky. Although it was a cloudy day, it would take a lot of effort to create an opportunity to cast Kylin. I can only wait until Zen and the others are at a safe distance before trying to break out. Dong Shilang thought secretly, looking at the rock giant in front of him who made him unable to attack, and the Lois on his shoulders. Kirin's preparations are still necessary. Fire style. Great Dragon Fire technique. Turning back again, Dong Shilang gave the opponent a fire style. Dong Shilang dodged while formulating his own battle plan. Next, he had to deal with the opponent carefully. Fortunately, he still had a few scrolls for storing fairy chakra made by using ink mixed with sealing stone powder. Otherwise it would be dangerous this time. Dong Shilang threw away the scrapped scroll in his hand again. Dong Shilang had no time to comfort his bleeding heart. He dodged the ninjutsu attack of the Lois again, and then tried to try again to break the opponent's ninjutsu. But before he could try, Dong Shilang, whose perception increased greatly in the sage mode, felt that there were several figures hiding under his feet, through the swamp layer made of loess. They are so hidden that ordinary ninjas cannot find them. It seems that these rock ninjas are planning to give me a surprise. Dong Shilang was calm on the surface. At this time, he had already started to think about how to use this opportunity to try to reverse the operation. At the same time, he did not expect that these rock ninjas would come so quickly. They came just after Yan and the others had just left the range of Huangquan Swamp. But before he could think about it, the rock ninjas could no longer hold back and slowly began to approach Dong Shilang. They are really in a hurry to reincarnate. Seeing this, Dong Shilang was also a little helpless. They came to make good use of them, but now his plan has not come out yet. They are rushing to die. He was also helpless. Earth escape Earth. When these four rock ninjas came to Dong Shilang's feet and stopped in four directions, a blazing white electric light pierced through the thick stratum and attacked them. Dong Shilang took action. At this time, he could not wait any longer. He didn't know what ninjutsu the other party wanted to perform, but just from the posture of the other party, he knew that it was a combination ninjutsu, and he knew it was not easy to deal with. So he directly used the Chidori sharp spear and stabbed the rock ninjas hiding underground. He didn't intend to give the other party a chance to perform the spell. Chapter 232 Earth Escape. Asshole, I must kill you. Huang Tu realized what had just happened when he saw Dong Shilang's action, and this time he yelled at Dong Shilang with an angry face. Dong Shilang didn't take it to heart. This kind of thing is too common on the battlefield, and even he himself didn't know how many people he had said this to. I didn't expect that the rock ninja who took the initiative to initiate this war would have the nerve to say such a thing. Although Dong Shilang didn't care about being insulted, he was not the kind of person who would allow others to insult him without fighting back. He dodged Huang Tu's increasingly violent attacks while retorting, "Humphrey, how can a bastard like you understand the relationship between me and my companions?" Huang Tu didn't dwell on Dong Shilang's accusations, but just controlled the rock colossus and walked towards the direction where Dong Shilang was. I never thought that the third Tsuchikage, who was known for his cunning, suspicion, and dishonesty, would have a son like you who values his companions. It's really surprising seeing Huang Tu's actions. Dong Shilang knew what Huang Tu was going to do, but he had no intention of stopping him. He didn't care about the lives of the rock ninjas underground. He wanted to distract the other party with this. Hakurai, wake up. Through the soil he controlled, he sent the four rock ninjas underground to the rock giant. Looking at the guards and another person, Huang Tu shook them anxiously, trying to wake up the two. The two of them and the other two rock ninjas had just hidden underground, preparing to give Dong Shilang a trick, but they didn't expect that Dong Shilang would discover their tracks in advance. They were seriously injured by the opponent with a Chidori sharp spear, and they were already in a coma at this time. As for the other two rock ninjas, they didn't have such good luck. Dong Shilang directly hit their vital points, and now their bodies are slowly getting cold. Don't you consider saving your two companions? It looks like they can't hold on for much longer. After seeing the change in Huang Tu's expression, Dong Shilang spoke up. He naturally hoped that Huang Tu would give up intercepting him for the sake of the lives of the two rock ninjas. If so, it would be great. Dong Shilang, who was familiar with medical ninjutsu, just glanced at the two people and roughly judged that although the two people did not die directly, they could not hold on for much longer. Well, this guy doesn't really think so. Although he said this, Dong Shilang did not have any illusions about this. What surprised him was that Huang Tu, who was standing on the shoulder of the rock giant, was full of hesitation, as if he was struggling with whether to give up intercepting Dong Shilang and take his companions to find medical ninjas. No wonder Inoki passed the position of the fourth Tsuchikage to the future leg shadow instead of his own son. It seems that he knows his son very well. This is exactly what the third Tsuchikage was very worried about. His son turned out to be a soft-hearted person. How could he safely hand over the heavy responsibility of Tsuchikage to Huang Tu? Not being able to use dust release was only one aspect, but more importantly, It was Huang Tu's character flaws. How could he deal with those insidious and cunning enemies in the ninja world who were as fierce as wolves and tigers? Lord Huang Tu, please hand over the two seniors Bailing to me. Just when Huang Tu was struggling, a figure slowly emerged from the swamp and said to Huang Tu respectfully. He still respected the son of the Tsuchikage. Not only was he powerful, but he also cared about the safety of ninjas like them. He never treated them as tools that could be discarded at any time. Huang Tu was very happy to see his companions appear. He happily handed his two companions to the other party, then turned around and said to Dong Shilang with a serious face, "Thank you for not interfering just now, but as a rock ninja, I still have to kill you. Don't worry, it won't be too painful." It seems that he felt that the strength of this enemy was not something that his companions could resist, and he did not forget to add a sentence to the companion who just appeared. Notify them that they only need to surround the outer perimeter, arrange people to chase the few people who escaped, and then you stay away. Dong Shilang was a little surprised that the large force of the rock ninjas would come so quickly, but he didn't take it to heart. Anyway, Yan and the others had already escaped from the enemy's encirclement. He believed that with their abilities, they could still escape successfully. But what did he mean by those few words just now, asking his companions to stay away? What was he doing? Could it be that he wanted to use the mountain soil technique on him? If he had known this would happen, he might as well try to make trouble just now. Maybe in this way, the other party would still be cautious. When Toshiro thought of the future ninjutsu that would restrict the movement of the outer path demon statue with the chakra of the seven-tailed beasts by trapping it in the middle, his scalp went numb. He estimated that even his own Gundam would not be able to withstand this ninjutsu unless it reached the ultimate form. Fortunately, this terrible thing did not happen. It seemed that the other party had no way to control a rock giant and perform this ninjutsu at the same time. Fortunately, he was really overwhelmed by Huang Tu's attack at this time. Previously, Huang Tu had considered intercepting Yan and his group, and his energy was still distracted, so Toshiro felt okay. At this time, he really felt the horror of a cage-level strongman concentrating on performing ninjutsu against one person. Earth style, eternal burial in the underworld. Earth style, earth splitting technique. Earth style, rock collapse. Earth style, ground spike forest. And other ninjutsu that Toshiro had seen in the original work or had never heard of were performed by Huang Tu. It was like draining the yellow spring swamp that Dong Shilang had created, and then letting those swamps form waves that overturned him in the center. After that, a huge rock hole was created under his feet, trying to make him fall into the ground, and then the mud and rocks at the edge of the hole collapsed, trying to bury him underground. There were so many ways. It was like giving Dong Shilang a vivid earth escape application course. If he didn't have the Sharingan, he could always see through the opponent's ninjutsu first, and if he wasn't in sage mode and had enough power banks, he would probably be lying on the board this time. At the same time, he was still complaining in his heart. He didn't expect that Huang Tu, a rough man with a beard on his face, was actually a ninjutsu turret. And the opponent was too cautious in his defense against the Sharingan, so he couldn't find any opportunity to use it. Chapter 233 Kylin. In the middle of a messy battlefield, the ground was in a mess, with scattered rocks and soil everywhere. It seems that you can't stop me this time. Standing on a piece of rock debris half buried in the swamp, Dong Shilang was panting heavily, with a slightly relaxed expression. He had been entangled with Huang Tu for a long time, and it was time to end it. Humphrey, I admit that you are strong, but the outcome is still undecided, and the final result is still uncertain. He was still quite confident that he could keep this Uchiha clan member, not to mention his own strength. There were more than 10 Iwagakure ninjas surrounding the place. Besides, in his current state, although he fell a lot, the enemy on the opposite side was not much better. Uchiha Dong Shilang, is this your last words? If so, I will do it. You killed too many Iwagakure companions. I won't give you the opportunity to continue to hurt Iwagakure. Feeling that 60% of his physical strength and chakra had been restored, Huang Tu moved his neck and prepared to continue. Although the opponent's strength is not bad, he thinks he should still have an advantage in terms of recovery. While the opponent is exhausted, it is time to pursue the victory. This is war. Yellow Earth. As the son of the third Tsuchikage, don't you understand this? Dong Shilang casually took out another sealing scroll from the ninjutsu bag behind him and said with a somewhat bleak expression, "This is how the world is. Things are always not as people wish. If there is a concept of winners, there must be losers at the same time. If you have the selfish idea of maintaining peace, you will provoke a war. If you want to protect, love will inevitably lead to hatred. There is a causal relationship between them and they cannot be separated. This is reality. Forget it. It probably doesn't make sense to a guy like you who has a single-minded mind. Although his ancestor is a loser, he has to admit that the experience he has summed up in his life is still very classic. It's just that the guy opposite him is not the kind of person with a delicate mind at first glance, and it is estimated that it will be useless to talk to him. Huang Tu looked thoughtful at Dong Shilang's words, as if he was touched. But before he could think more, he saw Dong Shilang took out the sealing scroll again, his expression tense. Is it the rotating shaft that sealed a lot of chakra? This was the third time that the other party took out this kind of sealing scroll in front of him. The other party opened this scroll twice, and his own chakra surged instantly. He had some guesses about this. Huang Tu, you have to be prepared next, otherwise you will really die. He raised his right arm and sent a ray of lightning into the sky. Dong Shilang spoke to remind Huang Tu on the opposite side, his expression solemn. At this point in time, killing Inoki's son would not have any benefit in ending the war between the two sides, but might make Inoki fight to the death. Wait and see. Huang Tu was still very confident in his own defense. He just slightly raised his awareness of Dong Shilang's reminder and did not take it too seriously, but soon his expression became solemn, and he frantically mobilized his own chakra to prepare for this attack, while muttering in a low voice, "Even the lightning has been tamed." He spent a lot of senjutsu chakra to perform the fire escape, and prepared for such a long time. Now the sky is already covered with dark clouds. From time to time, you can see dazzling flashes of light. The preparations for the ninjutsu have been completed. Thanks to his sage mode, Dong Shilang did not spend too much effort to successfully experiment with this ninjutsu in the original book 2 years ago. And facing Huang Tu, a shadow-level strongman who has practiced earth-attributed ninjutsu to the peak, there is no ninjutsu that is more suitable than this, especially when the opponent is controlling the rock giant that can use the soil under his body to restore the damage at any time. Lightning escaped middle. Kiran as Dong Shilang's right arm fell, dark clouds rolled above him and Huang Tu's heads, arcs roamed, and a huge thunder beast revealed its figure. He roared at the rock giant on the ground, and disappeared. Then, a flash of lightning that connected the sky and the ground was like a beam of light, connecting the dark clouds and the rock giant, illuminating the entire battlefield in a blazing white. Every rock ninja who was lucky enough to witness the spectacle closed their eyes tightly. Boom! A burst of thunder exploded in their ears, causing them to temporarily lose their hearing. Quick, go see what's going on. The rock ninjas outside the encirclement were all panicked when they saw such a change. The leading jonin roared even louder at this time, with a loud and full voice, but his companions looked at him blankly, obviously not hearing what he said at all. Seeing this, the leading jonin also realized that the problem was there, and did not continue to explain, but turned his head and headed towards the place where Huang Tu and Dong Shilang were fighting. And those rock ninjas just woke up from their dreams. One by one, they followed each other and took action. How is Lord Huang Tu? Just after running more than 100 meters, the leader of the Iwagakure saw a figure coming towards him. He recognized the other party's identity after a little identification. He was the target of his group. He couldn't help but ask about Huang Tu's fate. If the other party had something wrong, what would happen to their guards? Who knows? You can go and take a look. Maybe he is still alive. Dong Shilang had recovered some of his hearing. Hearing the question of the Iwagakure opposite, he replied with a smile on his face, and then rushed towards the other party and the Iwagakure behind him. At this time, the most important thing for him was to break through, and there was no need to entangle with these Iwagakure. As for Huang Tu's condition, he knew whether he was alive or dead, but he was still clear that the other party was not in a good condition now. In his perception, the other party's breath had become intermittent. Even if he didn't die directly, He was probably not far from death. Damn it. After hearing Dong Shilang's answer, Gang Jiu Jonin no longer cared about Dong Shilang's affairs. He directly used the earth diving and headed towards the yellow earth. TSK. It's really convenient seeing that the other party left so happily. Dong Shilang couldn't help but regret that he had just opened the power bank. Was it a waste? Chapter 234 Death. Just when Dong Shilang was breaking out, Gang Jiu, a Jonin, had already arrived at the scene. Seeing the mess, his face became more and more ugly. In front of him, the entire ground collapsed into a huge deep pit with a diameter of nearly 100 meters. The soil and rocks on it cracked, and a wisp of white smoke rose from time to time. The center was even more exaggerated. A pile of earth with a height of 20 meters lay there quietly. In the center of the pile, there were some orange-red lava, flowing quietly, emitting an astonishingly high temperature. At the edge of the magma, there were some orange-red block crystals. There was no trace of Huang Tu on the ground, so he went directly into the ground to search. If he was alive, he would see the person, and if he was dead, he would see the body after only 10 breaths. He came out of the ground carrying a figure. Lord Huang Tu. Lord Huang Tu reaching out and touching Huang Tu's neck, feeling the pulsation on it and the body temperature of the other party. Gang Jiu, a Jonin, quickly picked up Huang Tu and went to the location of his companions. The medical ninja was over there. At this time, Toshiro had already broken through the defense of the rock ninja, and directly took out a picture of a flying bird from it and threw it on the ground. Next, I have to find my companions, and I have a lot of work to do flying in the air. Toshiro began to search for the traces of his companions. Now he only needed to follow the rock ninjas who were tracking Hamura and the others. With just a few of them, it should be no problem to escape the tracking of the rock ninjas, but it would not be so easy to break through the border of the rock ninjas. Just when Toshiro found his companions and was about to take them back to the camp, near the Kanabi Bridge, which is located in the Land of Grass and connects with the rock ninjas, 2 young Konoha ninjas also found their companions. The chakra in Lin's body is very disordered, different from ours. Maybe she was caught in the enemy's illusion. Hearing what Obito said, Kakashi answered calmly. After helping Lin to remove the illusion, he was ready to leave here with his companions. What he didn't expect was that the enemy who had just been defeated by him and Obito stood up again at this time. Nice cooperation, but you are just brats after all. Now you are in the hands of the enemy. Looking at the enemy with an afro on the opposite side, whether it is Kakashi, or Obito and Rin on the side, their faces changed drastically at this time, knowing that things are going to get bad. Earth style, rock collapse without caring about the faces of the 3 brats on the opposite side. The rock ninja named Huoguang directly performed ninjutsu, trying to bury these brats here. Revenge for his companions. Run to the exit. Seeing the loose rocks on the cave wall, Kakashi hurriedly reminded his companions loudly, and then took the lead to rush to the exit. The 3 of them had just escaped to the vicinity of the exit. Kakashi had lost part of his vision due to his eye injury. He was hit by the falling rocks from above his head, and the whole person lost his balance and fell to the side. Unfortunately, at this time, a larger rock fell towards Kakashi's position. Kakashi, seeing that Kakashi was in a bad situation, Rin exclaimed. Seeing this, Obito did not hesitate at all, and rushed forward with all his strength, saving his cherished companion from danger. However, he himself, "Are you okay, Lin?" Kakashi, even at the moment of death, the young man named Uchiha Obito was still concerned about the safety of his companions. Obito, just when he turned around, he saw that half of his companion's body was pressed under the boulder. Kakashi, who had just come to his senses because of Obito's words not long ago, regretted it now. With a dazed look, he staggered to Obito's side and tried several times, but he couldn't move the boulder that was pressing on his companion. "Stop it, Kakashi, it doesn't matter, I don't seem to be able to do it anymore. The right half of my body has been crushed. I don't even feel anymore." With a boulder pressing on him, Obito didn't feel anything at this time, and his whole body was numb. Looking at Kakashi, who was still trying to move the boulder, he calmly stated this fact, as if the person who was about to die was not him at all. "No, How can you? Why? Seeing her childhood companion in such a miserable state, Nohara Rin covered her lips with her hands, tears streaming from her eyes. She really couldn't bear to see such a scene, and turned her head away. Damn it, if I had listened to you earlier and come to rescue Rin, things wouldn't have turned out like this. What kind of captain am I? What kind of jonin am I? Seeing that things were irreversible, Kakashi knelt on the ground, pounding the ground weakly, with a look of regret. During the rescue of Rin, Kakashi was punched by the opponent. When he rushed to the vicinity, Obito was fighting with the enemy. Although he opened the Sharingan, he was too lacking in actual combat experience. He fell into the enemy's trap after just a few rounds. If he hadn't arrived in time, Obito's fate would have been bad, but the price he paid for this was his left eye. It also eventually led to the current tragedy. Oh right, I almost forgot. Speaking of which, I'm the only one, unlike Nohara Rin who looked sad, and Kakashi who was full of regret. Obito was unusually calm at this time. Considering Kakashi's current state, he might not be able to break through with Nohara Rin, and he also wanted Kakashi to help him watch Rin, so he decided to give his intact left eye to him. He hoped that he could use his eyes to protect Rin. He still owed him a gift, didn't he? Boom! With a loud bang, Kakashi appeared outside the wreckage of the cave. It's really difficult. He's still alive. But he's just a brat after all. As a ninja, what's there to cry about? Looking at the white-haired brat who broke through the ruins and appeared in front of him, and the tears in the corners of his eyes, Huo couldn't help but taunt him. The other party is really young, thinking what the profession of ninja is. Kakashi, on the other hand, used Obito's eyes to quietly observe the rock ninja opposite, and at the same time pulled out the white fang on his back. Ding! Kakashi swung the white fang and slashed at the flames. Because he was too angry, he didn't control the strength of his hand. The white fang short sword in his hand broke into pieces. At this time, Obito, who was in the ruins, was still comforting his companions and secretly regretting that even now, he had not confessed his love to Rin. Chapter 235 Memorial Service. Madara. The target has been brought back, but the situation is not good. The whole person is about to rot. A large mass of white unknown tissue was tightly wrapped around a broken body. In this unknown tissue, a round object the size of a football opened its mouth and uttered a burst of human language. This was obviously the head of a humanoid creature. It was the white Zetsu who brought Obito's body here. After Kakashi and Rin left, he took advantage of Obito's coma and possessed him, using his abundant life energy to maintain his vitality. Otherwise, Obito would not have been able to hold on for long. Not to mention the long journey. Are you finally here? It's really miserable. Even one of your Sharingans is missing, but it's good this way. Uchiha Madara stood up tremblingly, moved to Obito's side, looked down at the junior lying on the stone platform, and began to get busy. He not only had to save the other person's dying life, but also had to make some arrangements in the other person's body. This was not an easy task for an old man like him. After a long time, using White Zetsu's body, he barely pieced Obito together as a whole, and then sent him to the bed beside him. Madara moved his feet and slowly walked to his seat. Black Zetsu, go get ready. Let me see whether this kid can burst out the potential that satisfies me. As soon as he sat down, Madara began to order the consciousness incarnation he created. He couldn't leave the side of the outer path demon statue now, and many things could only be done by Black Zetsu. As for White Zetsu, these failures couldn't do such delicate things. They could only help with some small things and talk some trash. Use the hidden line over there. Facing his nominal father, Black Zetsu acted more cautiously, and played a will clone accidentally created by the other party. Exactly. Hidden line? Let's use the one from the Land of Water. Before he hid underground and waited for the eyes of Samsara to open, he prepared a lot of hidden lines. However, due to wars and other factors over the years, they have been almost consumed. Now the only relatively intact ones are those in the isolated overseas Miss Ninja. Dong Shilang had no idea about the changes here. He was flying high in the sky with his companions, preparing to evacuate the land of Earth. At the same time, he didn't know that on this not-so-special day, Something that would change the Uchiha and the ninja world had happened. A golden figure killed dozens of rock ninja jonins at the front line of the Land of Grass at one time, making all the rock ninjas terrified. A small figure witnessed the brutal fight between the ninjas, and when the sky was about to brighten, he began to think about the meaning of life. And Obito, the life trajectory of all of them did not change at all because of him. The time traveler. Half a month later, under the gloomy sky, a large group of people were placing their flowers in their hands next to the memorial in turn. Under the leadership of the third Hokage, all the prominent people in Konoha attended the memorial service. They mourned the companions and relatives who died in the war. Everyone looked heavy. After several years of the Ninja World War, Konoha's losses were too great. All the clans that can be called out, such as Uchiha, Hyuga, Ino, Deer, Chu, Kurama, Aburame, etc., have changed their clan leaders. All of them died in the battle, which greatly damaged Konoha's vitality. Inside the Uchiha shrine, the Uchiha people who had just attended the memorial service were discussing fiercely. I heard that the Sand Dame intends to abdicate and let the wise man take over. I wonder if the clan leader can do so. Hotate Kakashi is not a member of our clan at all. He is not worthy of holding the Sharingan of our clan. Looking at his clan members who kept arguing about these two issues and expressing different opinions, Tawashiro just wanted to go back home and have a good rest. As a three-Magatama Uchiha, Tawashiro naturally participated in this clan meeting, but he really didn't agree with those quarreling clan members. Tawashiro, as the youngest jonin in the family, I wonder what you think about this. Uchiha Fugaku, who was troubled by the quarrels of those clan members, looked at Tawashiro, who was sitting quietly with a calm expression, hoping to get the support of his acquaintance. Even if they are from the same family, there are relatives and strangers, and the other party is his uncle's disciple, so he should help him. Tawashiro, who was quietly waiting for the meeting to end, did not expect that his own affairs would be included in this discussion. He had already thought about rewarding himself after the meeting. Regarding everyone's suggestion to participate in the competition for the fourth generation, I think it is completely unnecessary. Since he was named, Tawashiro had to say a few words, but he was interrupted by others before he could finish his words. What did you say? Uchiha Tawashiro, do you know that Hokage has always been something that we Uchiha have been thinking about? This opportunity is so good. The third Hokage took the initiative to abdicate, and someone nominated Fugaku clan leader. How can we miss such a golden opportunity? Interrupting Tawashiro's speech, Uchiha Tyuo was excited, as if the position of the fourth Hokage was in their pocket. Hey, Tyuo, don't be so excited. Let Tawashiro express his views. Although he suppressed these clan members at the memorial service, he just didn't expect that these people would be waiting for him here. At this time, there was another person who agreed with his views. How could he tolerate the other party's speech being interrupted? Humphrey. Hearing the words of the clan leader, Uchiha Tyuo hummed reluctantly and turned his head to the side. Seeing this scene, Tawashiro was not surprised. He knew all the people in his clan were the same after so many years. One by one, unless you defeat them head-on and show superior magnanimity, don't expect them to be convinced. Rolling his eyes helplessly, Tawashiro didn't have time to get angry with these people. The reason I think so is that almost all the high-ranking officials in Konoha at this time are disciples of the second generation. They have inherited the will of the second generation, and their attitude towards Uchiha is clear to everyone without me saying much. How could they let us Uchiha produce a Hokage? Add in Orochimaru, Jiraiya and that Golden Flash. We Uchiha don't have any chance. Chapter 236 Discussion. There is actually another reason, which Tawashiro did not say. The Uchiha family has actually lost the best opportunity to become Hokage. Originally, if Madara had not messed up, the Uchiha family still had a glimmer of hope for the position of the second Hokage. Even if it is not the second Hokage, but the third Hokage, can't the Uchiha family fight for it? With Madara, everything is possible. But this guy was fooled by the stone tablet left by Black Zetsu and became a traitor. He also turned around and attacked Konoha. All this turned into a bubble. Now, with the birth of a large number of civilian ninjas, their combined strength can already send the future fourth Hokage to the throne of Hokage. During the First Ninja World War, family ninjas still took the lead. By the Second Ninja World War, it was half family ninjas and half civilian ninjas, and now, ordinary civilian ninjas have occupied the majority of the ninja group. It is extremely difficult for Konoha to have another Hokage from a big family, unless there is a power to suppress everything. This, even if what he said makes sense, relying on the bloodline limit of the family. These are not a problem. Uchiha Tetsuka's voice became smaller and smaller as he asked Mento Tawashiru's question. Obviously, he also knew that relying on the power of his family, it was impossible to ignore the existence of those people. Even so, relying on the strength of the Fugaku clan leader, I think that the focus of everyone's attention should not be on this aspect at all. What we should be more concerned about is that Kakashi has the family's Sharingan. Before Uchiha Tetsuka finished his words, Tawashiru interrupted him, and as soon as he spoke, Uchiha Fugaku, who had just breathed a sigh of relief, changed his face. Tawashiru, this is Uchiha Obito's wish. We should still respect the decision of the deceased. Fugaku did not expect that things would take such a turn. Just now he was glad that the other party was not as radical as Tetsuka. Now he has been caught like this. Senior Fugaku, a double Magatama Sharingan is nothing to the family. The focus of this matter is not here at all. What do you mean? Uchiha Fugaku was also confused. Since the Sharingan is not the focus, what is the focus? Compared to that Sharingan, we should be more vigilant about a mere medical chunin who successfully completed the Sharingan transplant surgery in such a tense environment as the battlefield. And Hotai Kakashi, who does not have Uchiha blood, has adapted to this Sharingan quite well, without any twists and turns in the middle. What does this mean? I don't think I need to say more. Without waiting for Uchiha Fugaku to continue asking questions, Tawashiru said his words. As soon as Tawashiru finished speaking, the entire shrine was silent. In the Warring States period, no ninja family dared to transplant Uchiha's Sharingan, because once they did so, they would face the endless pursuit of Uchiha. Except for the Senju clan, no other clan could withstand the wrath of the Uchiha clan. Moreover, at that time, medical ninjutsu was not very developed, and there were very few medical ninjas who could complete eye transplant surgery. But in the era of ninja villages, facing many large ninja villages, the Uchiha clan was powerless. In addition, with the development of medical ninjutsu over the years, a 12-year-old girl could accomplish such a thing. How could they not be on guard? Otherwise, the members of their Uchiha clan would have to be cautious every time they went out on a mission. All the Uchiha clan members present knew the meaning of Tawashiru's words. As long as they thought about it, they all fell into silence for a while. How about we take back this Sharingan? After a long time, someone finally broke the long silence. As soon as he opened his mouth, he aroused everyone's approval. Good. Sharingan is indeed not suitable for non-family members. We are doing this for his own good. Without Uchiha blood, he can't use the Sharingan at all, but will become a burden. We still have to recover the Sharingan, otherwise, there will be endless troubles. In fact, in Tawashiru's opinion, this aspect accounted for a large proportion of the Uchiha family's extermination. Although he didn't know whether the Nabokage had a Sharingan transplanted in his eyes, one of the important reasons why the other party would exterminate the Uchiha clan in the future was to collect the Sharingan from the clan members. And no one can say for sure what role Kakashi, who always walks around with a Sharingan on his head, played in this. If this prompted the family to develop some targeted responses, the future of these clan members might change. Tawashiru, this matter was proposed by you. I wonder if you have any good solution? Seeing those clan members who were talking endlessly, Uchiha Fugaku threw this question to Tawashiru and asked him to give a better solution. After all, this Sharingan was given away by Obito himself. If we ask for it back rudely, it will bring a lot of trouble to the family. Uchiha Obito, this guy, really brought a lot of trouble to the family. Since this Sharingan was given to Hotai Kakashi by Obito as a gift for his promotion to a senior ninja, we really can't be too tough. Why don't we change the gift? I heard that Hotai Kakashi's White Fang short sword was damaged in this mission, so we will give him another chakra weapon. If he is not satisfied, the family is not short of S-level ninjutsu and secret techniques. Also, To prevent the things we don't want to see the most, we must make some preparations in advance. The most important thing is to make some preparations in advance. If the family has a sealing technique similar to bird in a cage, it can make the Sharingan of family members directly necrotize after death. The things that their family members were killed and took away their eyes should not happen. I think the probability of that happening in the future should be greatly reduced. Is that so? I hope it works. Facing the solution given by Toshiro, Uchiha Fugaku nodded. He was quite satisfied with this relatively gentle solution. If it can be solved in this way, it will be a satisfactory solution for the family, the village, and Hotake Kakashi. But there is still one problem, which is what Toshiro said, to take some targeted preventive measures. Kakashi's Sharingan will still stay with him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Headache. Minato. What's wrong? Frowning. Konoha village. On a street not far from Minato's house. A thick slap hit Minato Nimike's shoulder heavily, making a crisp sound. That's not all. The man stretched out his arm and put it on Minato Nimike's shoulder, without any dignity as a teacher. Ah, Teacher Jiraiya, you came at the right time. I have something to ask you. Minato still respected his teacher with a free and easy personality. The other party not only taught him everything he knew, but also gave him a lot of help in other aspects. Oh, there is still something that bothers you. Ha ha ha. It's time for me, the teacher, to show my skills. Tell me, is there any problem that can't be solved? For the Toad Sage Jiraiya, it's a piece of cake. After laughing a few times, Jiraiya, as a teacher, said that he took on a lot of responsibilities, and he didn't even care about what the other party was worried about. This is not the place to talk. Let's go home first. Kushina should have prepared lunch, just in time to entertain the teacher. After saying that, Minato took the lead and walked towards his home. Oh, Kushina has moved to your house? TSK, TSK, TSK. As expected, she is worthy of being my disciple, Jiraiya, and she has lived up to my name. Ha, ha, how can you be so exaggerated, teacher? Kushina just came to clean up and cook. Really? Nothing else happened in the middle? Hey, hey, hey. While talking, Jiraiya also laughed meaninglessly. After laughing, he did not forget to use his shoulder to bump Minato, and at the same time gave him a look that all men understand. It's really just a simple cleaning of the room and a simple lunch. Nothing else happened. Minato Namikaze was overwhelmed by his teacher's enthusiasm and denied it again and again. He even ignored the headache he had just had. Really? By the way, when are you and Kushina going to do it? Jiraiya naturally didn't believe it, but he didn't continue to embarrass his beloved disciple. Instead, he began to ask about Minato's marriage. I'm planning to discuss this with Kushina. While walking towards his home, Namikaze Minato dealt with his teacher's concern. You mean, the Uchiha wants to take back Kakashi's Sharingan? If I remember correctly, this was given to Kakashi by that kid Obito. After eating and drinking, Namikaze Minato confessed his headache to his teacher. Yes, the Uchiha wants to exchange a gift since Kakashi has no parents. Although he is already a jonin, he is still young after all, so they asked me to go and tell them about this. This is a bit difficult. Originally, if they insisted that this Sharingan was given to Kakashi by Uchiha Obito himself, even if the Uchiha had some opinions, they, the Hokage, would have something to say. But now the other party just wants to exchange a gift in order to recover their family's bloodline limit, and they don't have any good excuses to shirk. It's just a gift. What else do you want? What about Kakashi? What does that kid think? There is no good way. Jiraiya is ready to see what Kakashi thinks. You know, what the Uchiha said is not without reason. After all, he is not a member of the Uchiha clan. With such a Sharingan, it's okay when he is young, but when his growth period is over, this I will not be a help. After inviting Minato Namikaze over, Uchiha Fugaku told Minato the pros and cons of this matter. Kakashi's attitude is more determined, and he insists on keeping Obito's eyes. Minato Namikaze was also a little helpless about this. He just came back from Kakashi's house. The child felt guilty about this matter and hoped to keep Obito's gift. Moreover, the Uchiha also pointed out that as the news of Kakashi's possession of the Sharingan gradually spreads, it is not a good thing for them. The Uchiha. I think the teacher also knows about the bird in a cage thing. This if it was just the Uchiha side, he could still deal with it with the help of his teacher, the Sandaime Hokage. But the other party brought up the matter of the bird in a cage, and he was speechless for a moment. How could he not know that the Hyuga side developed the bird in a cage to prevent others from taking away their Byakugan? It was precisely because of the bird in a cage sealing technique that the entire Hyuga clan became as futile as it could be. Even he, who didn't care much about the rift between the main family and the branch family, had heard about it. Things are becoming more and more troublesome. Jiraiya scratched his messy hair, and he really didn't have a good solution. If the Uchiha side used force, whether it was him, Minato, or Kushina, with the three of them around, he really didn't care at all. But the Uchiha was sincere and everything he said made sense. Even the bird in the cage was mentioned. What else could he say? Looking at Minato and Kushina sitting side by side opposite him, Jiraiya felt that it would be better to let others deal with this matter. Let the old man solve this matter. Since he couldn't solve the problem of his apprentice, he would just leave it to his teacher. With the cunning of the old man, this kind of thing can definitely be solved satisfactorily. Is this really okay? I heard that the Sandaime is very busy now and is preparing for peace talks with the Iwagakure. No problem. The old man is experienced and is best at solving this kind of problem. Facing the concerns of his apprentice, Jiraiya didn't take it seriously. Busy? He knew that the old man had found time to use the ninjutsu that he coveted while he was busy. Well, this matter is decided. I will tell the old man about this matter. He is very busy now, and he has to prepare for the publication of his novel, so he has no time to waste his time on this matter. In this case, I'll trouble you to take care of this matter. After Jiraiya left, Kushina, I think we can work together to develop a sealing ninjutsu to solve this problem. As a golden flash, he didn't wait for the matter to be resolved. He was ready to use his own efforts to help Kakashi keep this Sharingan of Obito. Chapter 238. Sending a letter. Under the bright sunshine, Dong Shiliang, who had completed his meditation practice, left the Nanga River and headed towards the family residence. Even after he achieved the sage mode, he did not interrupt his meditation practice. With the help of this practice, he can feel the breath of nature, which will help him enter the sage mode faster. After returning to Konoha, the Nanga River, which is rarely visited and relatively close to the village, became his first choice for practice. Speaking of which, about half a year ago, he saw a little ghost from a distance, jumping off a cliff nearby. It's just a pity that the other party was awakened by the cry of a crow at the last moment and successfully saved himself. Otherwise, there would be a lot less things in the future. Now it has been nearly half a year since the end of the Kanabi Bridge mission. Konoha has also successfully signed a ceasefire agreement with the Rock Ninja, and the conditions are quite generous. This made a large number of ninjas who lost their relatives and friends in this war very dissatisfied. In response to this, the third generation is also ready to use his abdication to calm the emotions of the villagers, and he has already decided on the candidate for the successor. It's just that seeing that the other party is still young, he needs to work hard before he can retreat behind the scenes. However, these things have nothing to do with Dong Shiliang. However, how could the Sandaime Hokage, who is still in office, let him, and Uchiha, spend his days leisurely in the village so easily? I wonder if Sandaime-sama, do you have any mission for me to come here? After breakfast, Dong Shiliang came to the Hokage building located in the center of the village. Early this morning, he received a message from the Anbu. There is indeed a mission for you to complete. It's my honor. Although he said so, Dong Shiliang had already cursed in his heart. He just enjoyed the leisurely days of punching in and out for work for half a year, and he was assigned a task to himself. He really didn't want him to be idle. The thing is, although the village has signed a peace agreement with the Rock Ninja, the war is not over. There are often Kumo ninja probing the northern border. Although Jiraiya has been sent there, it is not a long-term solution. The Sandaime paused here, as if he wanted to see Tawashiro's reaction. It was a pity that he did not show any thoughts about this news. His face was calm and he quietly waited for the Sandame's next words. "And the water country has become more restless recently, so I hope you can complete this task, so that we can usher in peace. Earlier you have brought up peace, how can I refuse?" Hearing the Sandame's speech, Tawashiro did not expect that only half a year had passed, and he would be sent to the front line to be cannon fodder again. He just didn't know whether it was on the northern border or under Orochimaru in the water country. At this time, Orochimaru had been exiled to the front line of the war with the water country by the Sandame Hokage to be the battlefield commander. It was probably to get rid of him and make way for someone, and his destination was probably where he was. But he was not in a hurry. He was no longer the kid who was trembling with fear when facing Orochimaru 3 years ago, especially after his battle with Huang Tu. "The mission scroll is here. I hope you can carefully consider whether to accept this mission." Before Dong Shilang could think about it, the Sandame threw a scroll to Dong Shilang. Moreover, he emphasized the word careful. For Kakashi's Sharingan, he had to make some compromises and make some arrangements for Dong Shilang's destination. However, because of his identity, it would not be so easy. If he failed to complete this mission and unfortunately died in the mission, it was not his fault that he, the Sandame Hokage, did not keep his promise. The opportunity has been given to the other party, but Uchiha did not seize it. "I knew that this old man would come to me for no good reason." There was a lot of inner drama, but Dong Shilang was now able to keep his emotions under control. He unfolded the mission scroll in his hand with a calm face. He wanted to see what kind of mission Sarutobi Hiruzen would prepare for him. After just a quick glance at the contents of the scroll, Tawashiro gasped. The calmness he had gained from years of experience on the battlefield was thrown out of his mind. At the same time, he kept thinking in his heart, is this old man trying to play a trick of borrowing a knife to kill someone? Otherwise, why would he assign such a deadly mission to him? It's not him, Uchiha Tawashiro, who judges others by his own meanness. It's really a bit outrageous that the third generation assigned him this mission. Originally, this mission was going to be completed by Minato Nimikaze. No one is more suitable for this mission than him. But he is not in Konoha village now. After thinking for a long time, I think you are the best candidate to complete this mission. After saying this, the third generation Hokage pressed down the bamboo hat on his head with his hand, quietly observed Tawashiro's reaction. This mission, in fact, is to deliver a letter in a simple way. It's just that the address and the recipient are a bit troublesome, and if you don't do it right, something bad will happen. I wonder what the Sandame Hokage will say in the letter he's going to give to the fourth Kazekage? Tawashiro really didn't want to do such a task, so he expressed his meaning very tactfully. According to common sense, how could the letter that the Hokage gave to the Kazekage be revealed to him, the ninja who was carrying out the task? But Tawashiro asked this question at this time, and I believe the Sandame Hokage can tell the meaning of it. About this mission, without answering Tawashiro's question, the Sandame Hokage took a puff of the pipe in his hand, narrowed his eyes, and looked at Uchiha Tawashiro below. He began to explain to him the importance of this mission, and also secretly pointed out the reason for this mission. He was very dissatisfied with Tawashiro's response. You know, a Konoha ninja is not qualified to refuse a mission issued by the Hokage. The other party's current attitude obviously does not take the will of fire to heart. However, considering the other party's surname, he was more determined to let the other party complete this task. In that case, I understand. After listening to the explanation of the Sandame Hokage, Tawashiro had a general understanding of the origin of this mission. At the same time, the other party's attitude also made him understand that it was basically impossible to refuse this mission by relying on the identity of Uchiha. In other words, it was precisely because of his surname that this mission fell on his head. Chapter 239 Transmission, the area where the Kingdom of Wind and the Kingdom of River meet. Since the war between the Sand Ninja and Konoha ended 2 years ago, the Sand Ninjas have withdrawn to their own country. They have retracted their minions. However, some early warning posts on the border are still in operation to help the Sand Ninjas guard against enemy attacks. But today, Something strange happened here. That is to say, Your Excellency came here this time. Not because of another war between Konoha and the Sand Ninjas, but to deliver a letter? A bruised and swollen Sand Ninja looked at his companions who were staggering behind him, and the figure in the green vest who was sitting in his seat and looking at him with a smile, and couldn't help but twitching his mouth. He and his companions were on guard at this post. After seeing the figure of the Konoha ninja, they immediately fired a flare, prepared to report the enemy situation to the village. But before the flare was launched, it was intercepted by the enemy. Next, of course, he would rather die than surrender, and led his companions to fight the other side to the death. But the result, sitting in the simple camp of the Sand Ninja, Dong Shilang answered the other side's question indifferently. These guys were so excited when they saw him, and he had to let them calm down. So things became like this. Confirm again. You are holding the letter of the third Hokage and want to hand it over to the Kazekage? Not to go to war with our Sand Ninja? As if he still couldn't believe it, the Sand Ninja repeated what Dong Shilang had just said. I personally handed the letter of the Hokage to your Kazekage. Seeing that the other party was still a little unbelievable, Dong Shilang had to repeat the reason for his coming here again. Besides, if it was a war, would you guys still be able to stand here and talk to me intact? What do you mean intact? Can't you see the sin you have committed? As the captain of the Sand Ninja, he couldn't help but complain in his heart after hearing Dong Shilang's words. He and his companions were not completely unscathed. Captain, don't believe this guy. This must be Konoha's conspiracy. Before he could react, a companion behind him looked at Dong Shilang with hatred and shouted excitedly. If his hands and feet had not been tied by the guy on the opposite side and he could not move smoothly, this guy would have pounced on him. Seeing this scene, Dong Shilang had a clearer understanding of the danger of his mission. Even though the guy on the opposite side was controlled by him and his life and death were in his hands, he did not have any intention of begging for mercy. Instead, he struggled violently and looked crazy. This was also the sequelae left by the battle between the two sides. Humphrey, really stubborn, he was not a good guy who could smile and greet others when being scolded. He directly gave the other party a look. Let the other party shut up. Of course, he did not do too much. What did you do to Heiji? Seeing Tawashiro's actions and the changes in his companion's expression at this time, the Sand Ninja who first asked Tawashiro looked nervous and ready to take action at any time. In order to show his sincerity, Tawashiro did not restrict this guy's actions. Nothing, just let him have a pink dream. After nearly half a year of rest and precipitation, his strength in all aspects has made great progress, especially his talent in illusion. Using the Sharingan to let this kid have a beautiful dream is considered a prize for this guy. Just looking at this guy's intoxicated face and drooling, you can tell that this guy is enjoying it now. Looking at the perverted look on his subordinates' faces, and then looking at Tawashiro, the other party did not seem to be lying. This guy Heiji is really embarrassing. A drop of cold sweat dripped from the back of the captain's head. The guy opposite is really too insidious. In public, he cast such an illusion on his companion. Just looking at his expression and the name he was muttering, in addition to the strange expressions of his companions behind him, he knew without thinking that Heiji probably wanted to die after waking up. If the other party used such a method on him, well, the chat ends here. I hope you can activate your highest level of warning and send the situation here directly to your Kazekage as quickly as possible. This little episode is insignificant. Dong Shilang said the real purpose of coming to this outpost, since it was to deliver a letter, it was naturally impossible to sneak in front of the 4th generation Kazekage of the Sand Village without making any noise. In this case, it is estimated that before he can open his mouth, the other party will call his shadow guards to kill him. Although he may not be afraid of the other party's strength, but if so, he will not face the Kazekage and his shadow guards, but the ninjas of the entire Sand Village. After thinking for a long time, Dong Shilang decided to go to the Sand Village directly and openly. How is it possible? This highest level of warning will only be activated when encountering a large-scale foreign invasion. Is it impossible? Seeing that the other party refused to accept, Dong Shilang did not care. He just pointed at Heiji behind him and asked him to look for himself. At this time, Heiji's face was flushed and his expression was obsessed. Remove. He really couldn't bear to watch it, so he had to help his companion to remove the illusion on his body, and at the same time he was thinking about what the other party meant. He knew that Dong Shilang asked him to look at Heiji, the idiot, not to use the same method against him, but to make him understand that even if he disagreed with the other party's illusion level, he could completely torture out intelligence, and at the same time, he could also manipulate himself and make him do what the other party asked unconsciously. Damn it, the captain became more and more discouraged the more he thought about it. At this time, he punched Heiji's head and knocked the guy who was just dreaming an indescribable dream unconscious. This was definitely not to vent anger, but for the good of this guy. Yes, that's it. Otherwise, facing the weird look of his companion, he doubted very much whether his companion would be so ashamed and angry that he would be unable to get over it. I know, I will do as you ask. In desperation, the Sand Ninja captain had to follow Tawashiro's request and, under his supervision, activated the alarm that had been set in advance and sent a message. Chapter 240 Old Acquaintance. 3 days later, at the same base, Tawashiro appeared outside the base. After the message was sent, he left the base and did not appear until today. Wind style, vacuum great ball, a colorless sphere with a diameter of nearly 2 meters, filled with intense wind style chakra, attacked Tawashiro's position. At the same time, there appeared a melee ninja holding a ninja sword, slashing at Tawashiro's waist. Just from the thin and sharp chakra on the blade, it can be judged that the power of this slash is so difficult to resist. This is not the end. According to Tawashiro's observation, there is a puppeteer in the dark, ready to move. Once he reveals any flaws when dealing with these attacks, he will give Tawashiro a fatal blow. This is also the reason why Tawashiro waited for 3 days before coming to this base, in order to prevent those overly excited sand ninja from assassinating him, just like now, and waiting for the attitude of the wind shadow. With the attack of the vacuum great ball and the ninja sword, the Tawashiro who appeared did not make any resistance and was directly smashed into pieces by this sudden attack. It's not that easy. Seeing his prey being hit so easily, he turned into a ball of earthy yellow mud and disintegrated. The 2 sand ninja attackers did not have any surprises, but turned their eyes to the direction where Tawashiro came from, preparing to launch a second round of attacks. Saki, Madu, are you two going to ignore the orders of the Kazekage? Stop it now. A clear female voice interrupted the attack of the 2. Yakura Jonin, unlike you who accepted the order from Raz to bring this Konoha ninja back to the village, the order we received was to kill him. Of course, this is also our idea. Among the 2 who launched the attack, Saki, who was the leader, grinned at Yakura who had just stopped him, and turned to look at the other Tawashiro who had just appeared. Although he was smiling, the coldness in his eyes was obvious. The colleagues from the Sand Village were really enthusiastic, seeing that someone from the other side finally came out to stop the actions of these people. Dong Shilang also showed up and greeted his colleagues. Humphrey, seeing this, the Jonin named Shagui just snorted coldly and signaled his companions to prepare to attack again. That, you'd better confirm whether the one in front of you is the real body before you attack. Seeing that the other party was still planning to attack, Dong Shilang was also helpless. He could only use this as an excuse and prepare to see what his old acquaintance would do. He was not surprised at all that he would be attacked by the sand ninja when he delivered the letter this time. The 2 sides fought for such a long time, and both sides suffered casualties. Seeing that he, a ninja from Konoha, could not help but attack, it was also a matter of course, but he did not expect that the other party could actually ignore Raza's orders. It seems that the interior of the sand village is not very peaceful. Enough. Saki, Mato, I don't care who ordered you 2 to do this, but if you want to kill him in front of me. As he spoke, 4 orange-red fireballs began to fly up and down around Yi Kang's figure. At the same time, waves of oppressive heat spread out. Saki and Mato had to move their feet. Lol, Charlie took a fancy to this kid from Konoha and actually sent you to carry out this mission. Seeing this, Saki's face was so gloomy that water could drip from it. In this case, you should understand that you can't kill him without my consent. As he spoke, Yi Kang also controlled the scorching fireball, surrounded Saki and Mato to prevent them from continuing to attack. Yi Kang, you have to think clearly. The other party is from Konoha. Do you really want to fight with your companions because of a Konoha person? Seeing Ye Kang's firm attitude, Saki did not mean to give up. Instead, he reasoned with him and moved him with emotion. He hoped to pull Ye Kang into his camp and kill the Konoha ninja on the opposite side together. The opponent's strength is not weak. If you can pull her into your camp, not bad. Saki, Mado, you have to think about it. Do you really want to disobey the order of the fourth Kazekage? If so, I don't mind killing both of you and the guy hiding in the dark. Before Saki continued to persuade Ye Kang with his eloquence, another voice interrupted him, and the tone was quite impolite. Obviously, he was quite dissatisfied with Saki's calling Luosha's name just now. It's you, Yashimaru. I didn't expect Luosha to send you out. Looking at this person who suddenly interrupted him, Saki was also a little surprised. At this time, a not-so-tall sand ninja was walking out of the checkpoint. He was wearing a regular combat uniform, with light yellow hair and a pretty and gentle face. It was the fourth Kazekage's brother-in-law, Gaara's uncle Yashimaru. Let's go. Seeing this person appear, Saki did not continue to entangle here, but directly left with his companions. Since Yashimaru appeared here, it can be seen that this matter has been taken seriously by the Kazekage. It is no longer something that can be easily solved by a few people. The adult behind them needs to consider it carefully. Excuse me, Konoha's messenger. After sending Saki and his companions away, Yashimaru came to Tawashiro and said with a smile, if it weren't for the fact that those people just did too much, he really didn't want to expose the inside story of the Sand Village to the Konoha ninjas. No, companions like this who are more emotional. I think no matter which village is not lacking facing the kindness shown by Yashimaru. Tawashiro did not hesitate to return a smile to the other party, and laughed at the same time. Just as he said, ninjas like Saki who are more emotional, that is, the so-called war faction, are common in any village. They are either radical in thought and happy to hear about war, or they are addicted to hatred and cannot extricate themselves. As he spoke, Dongshiro was observing Yashimaru on the opposite side. This guy really looked like a boy with a girlish look, a little like a beautiful girl from a small family. It can be said that Luosha attached great importance to Dongshiro's arrival this time. Not only did he send a powerful Ye Kang as his guard to prevent Dongshiro from being assassinated by those with ulterior motives, but he even sent his own brother-in-law. Chapter 241 Provocation. Night in the Land of Wind. The temperature difference between day and night is large. During the day, the sun is scorching, but the temperature drops sharply at night. It is difficult for people who are not familiar with this desert to adapt. After a long journey during the day, Ye Kang, who escorted Tawashiro all the way, suddenly stood up from the campfire. At the same time, he cast his eyes on Tawashiro who was sitting opposite the campfire. There was a hint of fighting spirit in his eyes. Ye Kang, don't be willful. Seeing the actions of his companions, Yashimaru, the leader, spoke at this time, trying to stop Ye Kang's impulse. However, his words were ignored by Ye Kang, the proud Shokugutsu user. He still stared at Tawashiro opposite with burning eyes. Akai Tawashiro, if you are a man, follow me. Leaving such a sentence, Ye Kang turned around and walked towards the place where the campfire could not reach, leaving Tawashiro with a nearly perfect back. TSK, it's really a headache. It was late at night, and they were chatting alone in a secluded place. If you didn't know, you would think there was some secret between them. During the day, after the team of sand ninjas who came to assassinate Tawashiro left, there was something wrong with the way Ye Kang looked at him. I thought she would be restrained in front of the Kazekage's confidence, but I didn't expect that when they were camping at night, the other party would still have an attack. It was all the fault of the shadow clone. You don't have to pay attention to Ye Kang's provocation. With us here, she won't do anything excessive. Seeing this, Yashimaru spoke up and gave Tawashiro a way out. The ninjas who came to bring Tawashiro back to the Sand Ninja Village this time were not only him but also Ye Kang. There were 6 people in total, which was considered 2 ninja teams. This was to prevent some sand ninjas with radical ideas from doing irrational things, just like those people during the day. Thank you for your care, Yashimaru. I think Yikang Jonin is just a little dissatisfied with my last offense. It shouldn't be a big deal. Although it was a simple provocation, Dong Shilang felt that there was no unsolvable hatred between him and the other party. It was just a verbal abuse last time, which was not a big deal. Besides, with his current strength, even if he didn't enter the sage mode, this woman might not be his opponent. After saying this, Dong Shilang stood up and went in the direction where Yikang left. Seeing this, Yoshimaru didn't say much, but just frowned. He was a little dissatisfied with Yikang's rebelliousness, but didn't think much about it. That Yikang Jonin, nearly 100 meters away from their campsite, looking at the back of the lonely figure standing on the sand dune, Dong Shilang secretly gave him a thumbs up. At this time, Yikang, under the background of the bright moon and stars in the sky, had a heroic feeling. Her long hair was tied into a cute bun, and the two bangs on her forehead added a touch of cuteness to her delicate face, especially the orange red at the end of her bangs, which made her whole temperament become lively. The light dress similar to a short cheongsam well outlined her graceful figure, especially the white belt around her waist, which exposed her slender waist and towering chest. In addition, under the reflection of the moonlight, her beautiful back was faintly shiny. Even Dong Shilang, who had seen many two-dimensional beauties in his previous life, had to sigh that the spiritual energy of the Sand Village was really gathered on her. Later, there was no comparison with Temari. "What are you looking at, you shameless guy?" he interrupted Dong Shilang's words directly. Being in a high place, being looked at from bottom to top by the other party's eyes, Yikang felt as if ants were crawling over her body, which made her feel particularly awkward. At the same time, she was also a little angry. Swish! A bright knife light appeared from where Dong Shilang was standing. Hey, I came to your sand village this time without any bad intentions. You treat an old acquaintance who came from afar like this. This is not good." Dodging the opponent's attack, Dong Shilang felt a headache when he saw Yikang, who had no intention of stopping. He could only try to distract the other party with words. "Who is your old acquaintance? You nasty guy, don't try to get close to me." It would be fine if the other party didn't speak, but Yikang became even more angry when he spoke. She remembered what Dong Shilang had done. For so many years, she had been waiting for an opportunity to teach the other party a lesson and avenge the past. "The ninja sword in your hand?" Dong Shilang, who was forced to dodge everywhere by the opponent's continuous attacks, found that the ninja sword in the opponent's hand looked familiar. It was the Okamoto 01 that he lost last time. Unexpectedly, it fell into the hands of the opponent. "Yikang, if you keep going like this, I will fight back." He came here to deliver a letter, and it was not good to have any conflict with the Sand Ninja, but if Yikang kept pestering him, he would not be the type to just take a beating without fighting back. But, should he give her another set of I-18 styles? Although he has developed a lot of moves over the years, if he uses them on Yikang again, given this woman's clear love and hate personality, she will probably explode on the spot. After saying this, Dong Shilang spotted a flaw and punched the opponent's chest and abdomen. Despicable. Seeing his familiar attack method, Yikang was really frightened. After gritting her teeth and cursing, she was ready to defend with the ninja sword in her hand. However, from the slowly raised corners of her mouth, it was known that all this was calculated in advance. It turned out that Yikang called Dong Shilang out this time, and the whole process was carefully calculated, including her standing on a high place before, showing her most perfect side. It was all to seduce the other party, in order to make Dong Shilang perform those shameless moves again. She, Yikang, would get up from where she fell. Even if the other party was a messenger from Konoha, she didn't care. Anyway, she just wanted to teach him a lesson and vent the anger that had been stuck in her chest for all these years. Success. Yikang raised her long legs and threw them towards the ground in front of her. Black spells began to spread from Dong Shilang's feet. Wrapped Dong Shilang, who was swinging his fist, in the middle. I never thought that the Sand Village actually had this kind of sealing technique similar to the immobilization technique. It really opened my eyes. Chapter 242 Old Grudge. Of course, what opened his eyes even more was Yikang's seduction. His whole body was covered with black spells. He kept punching in motionless, looking directly into Yi Kang's eyes. "I just don't know, Yi Kang, how are you going to deal with me, a prisoner?" Being captured by the other party, Dong Shilang did not panic, but asked slowly, wanting to know how the other party would deal with him. "Don't worry, since you're the messenger of the Hokage, I will naturally not kill you." But, seeing this guy who made her unforgettable being captured by herself, Yi Kang's whole body smiled like a flower. It was very different from her usual cold expression. "I don't know if anyone has ever told you that you look really good when you smile, Humphrey. You've been captured, but you're still so slick. It seems that you won't learn your lesson unless I teach you a lesson also. When I see your face, I can't help but want to." Yi Kang narrowed her eyes at Dong Shilang's slurs, and then swung her fist at Dong Shilang's face. From the other party's posture, it was clear that she had put a lot of effort into this punch. If she had hit the target, Dong Shilang would have at least had a broken nose. Bang! A punch hit Dong Shilang's face, and before he had time to be happy, he saw Dong Shilang's entire body turned into bubbles with colorful light, flying in all directions. Damn it, it's an illusion. Looking at Dong Shilang's disappearing figure, Yi Kang knew that he had fallen into the opponent's illusion, but when did he fall into the opponent's conspiracy? "TSK, I thought there were just some misunderstandings between us, but I didn't expect Yi Kang Jonin to be so dissatisfied with me." Before Yi Kang could remember how she was tricked by the opponent, the figure of Dong Shilang appeared in each of the flying bubbles. At the same time, he spoke to her. "Misunderstanding? In your mind, are they just some misunderstandings?" After scanning the surroundings, Yi Kang formed seals with both hands, disrupted the flow of his own chakra, and tried to break the opponent's illusion. But to her disappointment, after her attempt, everything around her did not change at all. "Don't waste your energy. This is not an ordinary illusion, and ordinary methods can't solve it at all." Just when she was about to try other methods to solve the illusion, Dong Shilang's voice sounded at the right time. At the same time, another figure of Dong Shilang appeared opposite her, less than 3 meters away, and those flying bubbles exploded one after another, turning into tiny points of light, just like fireflies in summer, emitting a bright glow, wrapping the two of them in it. This illusion is an upgraded version of Tawashiru's projection illusion. He developed it after he discovered the flaw in his illusion and pondered over it. The principle is simple. It is to record the image you want to show in the Sharingan, and then refract and present it through the water molecules in the air. The principle is somewhat similar to the dark walk technique. Because it is also a projection illusion, it mainly targets the opponent's vision, and disrupting one's own chakra has no effect at all. Of course, this illusion also has an insurmountable disadvantage. Once the water molecules in the air are evaporated, the illusion will collapse by itself. "You women are really endless." Before Tawashiru could finish what he was saying, Yi Kang on the opposite side pulled out the ninja sword in front of him and slashed at Tawashiru again. She had just confirmed that the one in front of her was indeed the opponent's real body, so she attacked him directly without any hesitation. "If you don't stop, I won't be polite." The Clayman was still a little angry. This woman was so persistent, he didn't mind giving her another profound lesson. After saying this, Dong Shilang opened his Sharingan directly. However, his kindness did not get a response from Yi Kang. The other party just lowered his sight, avoiding his eyes, and then began to make seals with his hands, as if preparing to launch a ninjutsu. "TSK, do you think it's okay to avoid my sight? How naive." Another illusion. At this time, within Yi Kang's sight, the whole world has changed drastically. The full moon hanging high in the sky turned blood red and was staring at him. The 3 black magatama on it rotated, and even the clouds in the sky turned blood red. It looked weird and gloomy against the black night sky. A red rope hanging from the sky tied her up tightly and hung her in the air, swaying with the wind. And in front of her, that hateful figure was standing. He was looking at her up and down with a disgusting look. It is obvious that some dirty thoughts are echoing in the other party's mind. "You bastard, why don't you put me down?" "It's okay to put you down, but if you continue to attack, won't you be asking for trouble?" After admiring Yi Kang's curvy figure for a while, Dong Shilang turned around and stepped forward, ready to step out of the spiritual world. "Where are you going?" "Put me down quickly." Seeing Dong Shilang preparing to leave, Yi Kang became anxious. The other party behaved so obscenely, and he was now trapped in the spiritual space under the illusion. If the other party went out to do something, Dong Shilang ignored this at all. He was thinking about the advantages and disadvantages of his illusion at this time, using the refraction of water molecules in the air to directly project his pupil power into the bottom of the other party's eyes. This method now seems feasible. The reason why he tirelessly studied illusions such as projection was for this purpose. The fame of the Sharingan made every enemy who knew about it be cautiously on guard. And what could be simpler than refraction to make the enemy fall for it? Sorry for causing trouble for Lord Toshiro. Toshiro heard Yoshimaru's voice just after coming out of Yi Kang's spiritual world. At this moment, the other party was standing about 10 meters away from him, looking at this side with a smile on his face. No, it's just some old grudges between Yi Kang and me. It's insignificant. Looking at Yoshimaru, who appeared quietly nearby, Toshiro narrowed his eyes. Did the other party allow Yi Kang to provoke him in order to collect his intelligence? Or was he worried about some collusion between him and Yi Kang? Did he doubt the other party's loyalty? Chapter 243 Wondering. Yoshimaru, how is the attitude of Konoha's messenger this time? In the office of the Kazekage, the fourth Kazekage Raza, sitting behind his desk, began to ask Yoshimaru about the situation of this mission. The other party's attitude is not bad. I think Konoha should come with good intentions this time. That's the best. Hearing this, Raza whispered, and then asked, have you figured out the other party's identity and strength? The other party is a member of the Konoha Uchiha clan, Uchiha Toshiro, 15 years old this year, and the current Jonin. In terms of strength, Yi Kang Jonin and the other party have had some conflicts. However, it was not intense. The illusion skills shown by the other party are quite outstanding. In addition to the intelligence collected from the checkpoints, he is not a simple person. After hearing Yoshimaru's report, Raza did not speak immediately, but pondered for a while and asked about Yi Kang's situation. Where is Yi Kang? How is her attitude? Yi Kang, her attitude is still the same as before, and she has no intention of getting close to us. After finishing speaking, Yoshimaru did not forget to add a sentence. I didn't find that she had any intention of switching to them, especially when saying the word they. He emphasized the tone. What do you think about this? Without expressing his own opinion directly, Luosha wanted to see what his brother-in-law thought. Yakura is a pure ninja. We can use the name of the village to make appropriate use of her power, but she is too proud. There is no way to be a handy tool. You go down first. He was quite satisfied with the answer of his brother-in-law. In this case, it is time to transfer him to the Anbu. Regarding Konoha's messenger, when do you plan to meet him? Before leaving, Yoshimaru also mentioned the matter of Toshiro. We have to wait for this. The Elder Council is still arguing about it. When it comes to this, Luosha has a headache. In fact, their Elder Council also roughly understands the meaning of the Hokage and is arguing about it. Has the safety of the messenger been arranged? Don't let those guys take advantage of this. No problem. Arrange for Yi Kang Jonin to protect the other party's safety. He's a good candidate. Since Yi Kang doesn't rely on anyone, he is the most suitable person to protect the other party's safety. After Yoshimaru said goodbye, Luosha did not stay in his office for a long time, but got up and went to the residence of Elder Chio. What he was going to do would be meaningless if he could not get the support of Grandma Chio. You guy, can't you be more obedient? On the main street of Sand Village, Toshiro was strolling around in a white robe with the characteristics of the Kingdom of Wind and a white turban on his head. Even his mouth and nose were covered tightly by the turban. From a distance, he looked more like a native of the Kingdom of Wind than those residents of Sand Village. It's a rare opportunity to stroll around Sand Village. Since Yi Kang, an acquaintance of mine, is unwilling to show hospitality, I can only come here by myself. Who is your acquaintance? Don't get too close. The other party has experienced a lot of assassinations in the Sand Village these days. Now he comes out to stroll around again. He really doesn't know how to write the word death. Well, you know, with the relationship between our two countries, we can know each other and travel such a long distance together. It is a rare fate. You don't know how to cherish it. While looking around the environment of Sand Village, Toshiro kept talking and chatting with Meixiang, who was following behind him. That was just an ordinary mission. And you, with your shifty eyes, are you secretly collecting information about the village? Seeing this guy looking around, Meixiang, as a ninja, became alert and began to question Toshiro directly. Although Wuxia left Toshiro aside, he did not restrict his actions. Sand Village can still be visited, but some sensitive areas cannot be visited. Don't use such ugly words. Anyway, I am also a handsome guy. How can I be said to be shifty? As for collecting intelligence, your Kazekage has been there for 3 days and has not yet met with me. If I don't make some preparations in advance, what if your Kazekage suddenly turns hostile? I should always prepare an escape route in advance. The fact is indeed as Dong Shilang said, being in an enemy country, one's own safety cannot be guaranteed. He still feels that he should make some preparations in advance, otherwise if there is any emergency, he will not know where to run. Humphrey, that would be the best. I will be the first to act and kill you. After hearing Dong Shilang's explanation, Meixiang was a little confused as to why the Kazekage had not met the messenger from Konoha until now, but this did not prevent her from killing this guy herself after the village fell out. TSK, it's a pity that I showed mercy last time. If I had known. Dong Shilang couldn't help but have some wild thoughts when he thought of the erotic picture in his mind. What mercy, you shameless guy, how dare you treat me like this? If I have a chance, I must tear you into pieces. Also, did you do anything excessive in the end? It would be fine if he didn't mention this. As soon as Dong Shilang mentioned this, Meixiang couldn't help but get furious. Although the other party didn't say anything fancy or touch her last time, he left her hanging alone in the spiritual space. And in what position? And she had no idea whether the other party did anything dirty while she was controlled by the illusion. This made her unable to sleep or eat well these days. TSK, according to the training that ninjas receive, why would this woman have such a big reaction? He just simply tied her up, and didn't use those special techniques in his memory, so why did she have such a big reaction? As for the things the other party said, Yoshimaru was right next to him. What could he do? He held his chin with one hand, his eyes searched up and down Meixiang, wondering if he had clicked on some amazing talent of Meixiang. What are you looking at? Watch your eyes if you look at me again. Being swept from head to toe by the other party's eyes, Meixiang seemed to feel that he was back to that night, being hung in the spiritual space by the other party with a rope. A feeling of shame arose spontaneously. As for our night, is there any other story? While saying this, Dong Shilang looked at Meixiang opposite with a playful look. His expression was as lewd as it could be. Guess, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 Cooperation. Konoha's intention this time is very clear. I think we should just kill the messenger and start a war with Konoha again. Just when Toshiro and Meixiang were walking around the Sand Village, a high-pitched voice sounded in the high-level meeting room of the Sand Village. And it was malicious as soon as it opened its mouth, calling for killing Toshiro. Fuai, your thinking is too radical. Even if we don't cooperate with Konoha, there is no need to kill the Hokage's messenger. If you don't kill him, why keep him? I heard that the messenger is a member of the Uchiha clan. It's just right to learn some secrets of the Sharingan through his corpse. Humphrey, but I heard that someone has sent people several times to kill Konoha's messenger. The most ridiculous thing is that they actually failed. It's really embarrassing. With this level, you still want to continue the war with Konoha. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? Huangsha. There are naturally those who oppose, and there are naturally those who agree. As another voice sounded, the high-level meeting room was in a mess. This is why Toshiro used the Sand Ninja's channels at the border post to pass the news of his arrival to the Sand Ninja village's high-level officials. He even waited for 3 days for this. If he came to the Sand Ninja village to deliver the message alone, even if the Sand Ninja didn't arrest him as a spy, there would probably be a lot of Sand Ninja coming to cut off his head. But now that the news has been made public, There are naturally people who will help him block these sand ninjas with bad intentions. Even if we don't kill him, do we really have to go to war with the Mist Ninja and the Rock Ninja for some benefits? If so, our casualties will be considerable. As soon as this topic was brought up, the conference room was like a pot of boiling water, and everyone was talking and discussing. Rosa, are you really sure you want to form an alliance with Konoha? After a long time, an elderly sand ninja elder finally remembered that he and his men had a boss, and began to ask for Rosa's opinion. Alliance? This matter is still to be discussed. With his eyes lowered, Uchiha responded to the other party's question indifferently. His words were ambiguous, and his face was expressionless. It was impossible to tell what he was thinking. As the Kazekage, he certainly would not express his thoughts directly, even if he was inclined to do so in his heart. I think we should still have a good relationship with Konoha. The strength of our sand village ranks at the bottom among the 5 major ninja villages. Instead of thinking about how to confront Konoha, it is better to form an alliance with them. If you can't beat them, just join them. This simple truth is clear to the sand ninja. Although Uchiha did not express his opinion, he was not a Kazekage for nothing, and naturally he had his own supporters to speak for him. If you do this, where will those compatriots who died under Kikyo Castle be placed? Did they sacrifice in vain? The sand ninja elder named Fuai spoke for those compatriots who had died under Kikyo Castle. But, since the last defeat, the country has been impoverished, and the daimyo is even more unwilling to support us if there is no new source of funds. Our sand village will become weaker and weaker. In fact, this is indeed the case. The last war with Konoha had already reached the sand village in the Land of Fire. In order to gain the support of the daimyo described to the daimyo the benefits of land, compensation, etc. After the victory of the war, the daimyo was not vague and directly handed over his limited funds to the sand village. However, things did not go as planned. They did not live up to their expectations and eventually stopped at Kikyo Castle, and ended up with a dismal ending. The daimyo who was full of hope was dumped. After the war failed, the daimyo did not allocate funds to the sand village in the name of the depletion of the treasury. In addition, due to the post-war economic depression, the number of tasks in the Land of Wind, which was already small, has dropped sharply. Now the sand village is really at the point where it can't make ends meet. Seeing that the debate was almost over, Uchiha spoke up at this time. He did not ask the opinions of the elders, and even ignored Fuyi who had been singing against him. Instead, he looked directly at the grandmother Chiyo who had been silent. Elder Chiyo, I wonder what you think? As Uchiha's voice fell, the whole conference room became so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Everyone turned their eyes to the Chiyo siblings who had been dozing off. Sister. Sister? Seeing that his sister had not moved for a long time, Ebizo beside her gently touched his sister's arm twice, reminding her that this was the meeting room, not the time for her to play dead. Oh, are you in a meeting? Awakened by her brother, Chiyo seemed to have just come back to her senses, with a look of sudden enlightenment. The one-tailed Jinchuriki seems to be dying too. Chiyo did not mention the Konoha issue that everyone had just discussed, but instead brought the topic to the one-tailed Jinchuriki, which was completely unrelated to this. The current Jinchuriki of the Sand Ninja is indeed about to collapse. Granny Chiyo, I have already made arrangements in this regard. As for the purpose of Konoha's visit this time, I hope you can consider it. Although Uchiha was forced to agree to cooperate with Konoha, he knew that Chiyo's son and daughter-in-law died at the hands of Konoha, so he said it very tactfully. I am old, and these things will be decided by you young people. Glancing at the people present, she found that there was no one of the same age except herself and Ebizo. Chiyo felt sad, and left the meeting room after leaving such a sentence. Since the future of Sand Village has been handed over to them, the remnants of the old era like me should not stay here to get in the way. Looking at Chiyo who left in a huff, and Ebizo who left in the footsteps of his sister, Uchiha felt relieved. Without the opposition of Chiyo and her sister, this matter was done. As long as we wait until Sand Village has a breath, we can compete with Konoha at that time. Just like the Sand Village needed a large amount of funds to restore its strength, Konoha also needed time to heal the wounds of war. So the Sand Aim, who was not short of money, sent Toshiro to test the attitude of the Sand Village. But this was a big pitfall for Toshiro, although he thought that with his current strength, he could go anywhere in the ninja world. But this kind of difficult task of going deep into the enemy camp still felt a lot of pressure, so he was very cautious along the way. Chapter 245 Bear Country. Thank you for your hard work, Toshiro. In the Hokage's office, a scroll was handed to the Sandaime, and Toshiro finally breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he was lucky and had a good life. This mission was safe, otherwise, he would have been really screwed by the old man Sandaime this time. Since he visited the Sand Village with Yi Kang last time, the 4th Kazekage Raza summoned him and gave him a reply letter, asking him to give it to the 3rd Hokage. Knowing that Sand Village was not a place to stay for a long time, Toshiro did not even say goodbye to Yi Kang. He set off at that time, drew a flying bird, and carried himself away from Sand Village. Tell me the process of your mission and what you saw and heard in Sand Village in detail. Sarutobi Hiruzen did not rush to read the reply from the Kazekage. Instead, he asked Toshiro about the process of this mission and what he saw and heard in Sand Village. No matter how big or small. Listening quietly to Toshiro's narration, the 3rd Hokage took a deep puff of his pipe as he talked about Toshiro's method of completing the task and his comments on the Sand Ninja Village. He was having a headache about how to arrange this outstanding figure of the Uchiha family. If he was arranged to work under Minato, with his usual strength and wisdom, he would definitely become Minato's right-hand man, completely overshadowing those members of other families. But his thoughts still made him hesitate, as he formed a sharp contrast with another Uchiha he favored. As for arranging him to another place, looking at the photos hanging on the wall, the 3rd Hokage made up his mind. 3 days later, Bear Country. Hey, I didn't expect Toshiro-kun to come under my command. Orochimaru's sinister voice rang out in the big tent at the center of the Konoha camp. I didn't expect that I would meet Orochimaru-senpai again on the battlefield. And at this critical moment, Orochimaru-senpai didn't seem to be in a hurry. I didn't expect that the 3rd Hokage was really a jerk and actually arranged me to be under Orochimaru's command. This is really a trap to kill people. This brother will defect from Konoha in a few years, and there will be a lot of troubles at that time. All tangible things will eventually wither one day. Instead of caring about those intangible things, it is better to. At this point, Orochimaru stopped talking and didn't express his thoughts. However, Dongshiro still saw a trace of anger on his face. It seems that he is still a little unhappy about being abandoned by the 3rd Hokage. Under the command of Orochimaru-senpai, if there is anything, as long as it is within my ability, I will do my best to cooperate. Since he was under Orochimaru's command, Dongshiro did not hesitate and promised to take on a lot of responsibilities. It's just that how much effort he can make at that time depends on Orochimaru's performance. He has already thought about it. If it is beyond the ability of a Jonin, he will just give up. He is not afraid of Orochimaru now. It would be great if he could have a conflict with him in public. Orochimaru in his prime may not be able to win, but he can still protect himself. Orochimaru didn't take it seriously at all. Instead, he asked his men to arrange accommodation for Toshiro, and he himself seemed to be lost in memories. Senior Toshiro, just as he was about to get familiar with the camp here, a voice called Toshiro. Looking back, it was his subordinate in the camp of the grass country. Shizui, why are you here? I remember that the family members are now recuperating in the village. Why are you on the battlefield of the water country? Since the end of the war with the land of earth, although there are still conflicts from time to time on their border, Konoha, which has settled 2 opponents, can also take a good breath. The Uchiha, who also suffered heavy losses in this war, are busy reorganizing the security forces. How could Shizui appear here? I applied to the Hokage to come to the front line. You, unlike Toshiro, who is so eager to give up, Uchiha Shizui has inherited the will of fire very well. He is really a passionate young man. Are you the only one? No. Grandpa Ida is worried about my safety and sent a few of my clansmen to come with me. Uchiha Ida, the only one left from the 2nd branch, was born before the establishment of Konoha. Thanks to Toshiro's large summoned beasts, Uchiha successfully escaped from this war. Otherwise, according to what he knew from the original work, almost all the old members of the Uchiha family who could go to the battlefield died when the clan meeting was held. There was no one older than Fugaku. Is that so? Then you better protect yourself. Killing the enemy is not your turn, kid. After all, the other party is less than 9 years old, so there is no need to be too aggressive. After saying goodbye to Shizui, Toshiro began to visit the camp in the Bear Country. The Water Country used this peninsula extending from the mainland as its landing place and as a battlefield for fighting Konoha. The local Bear Country ninjas chose the same approach as the Grass Country in the face of Konoha and the Water Country. Just lie down. Toshiro sighed that the soon-to-be-killed salamander Hanzo was really worthy of being a demigod when he was young. In the Second Ninja World War, facing the wind, fire, and earth nations that turned their countries into battlefields, they directly made their attitudes clear. No matter which country the ninjas were from, as long as they dared to step into their country, they would all be regarded as declaring war on their reign ninjas. At the beginning, the several major countries just thought it was a joke, thinking it was just the helpless barking of the reign ninjas, until Hanzo of the Salamander declared war on several major countries at the same time. No one took it too seriously. However, when Hanzo of the Salamander, who occupied the advantageous location, integrated his reign ninjas who hated the ninjas of the major countries were defeated one after another. The opponent's Sancho toxin was too powerful, and the environment of the reign country was too suitable for the opponent to perform. Although the consequence of this was to directly drag the entire reign country into an endless war and turn the entire country into rubble, but it also won the respect of all major countries including Konoha. This is also the reason for the Third Ninja World War. Although there are teams from the reign country that infiltrate other countries from time to time, they have never regarded the reign country as a battlefield for war. It's not like the grass country next to it, and the current Bear Country. Chapter 246 Mai. A huge fog enveloped the entire battlefield. With superhuman hearing, from time to time, you can hear the sound of metal colliding from the thick fog. There are also short screams. The most annoying thing about fighting with the Mist Ninja is the endless mist hidden technique. The hidden mist village is shrouded in a fog. These Mist Ninjas are basically accustomed to this environment, but the ninjas of Konoha are in a headache. As expected, the famous Uchiha can handle it freely even in this thick fog full of chakra. A charming female voice came out from the fog that seemed thicker than the surroundings. I praised Toshiro. Although Zeomai is a great beauty, I still can't stand such a warm hospitality. Hearing this female voice, Toshiro did not dare to be careless. For the future 5th generation Mizukage, Toshiro did not dare to underestimate it. At the same time, he was also trying his best to activate his perception ability, trying to find the woman hiding behind the thick fog. It's useless. This fog is filled with my chakra, which can not only block your vision, but also blur your perception ability. As if she felt Dong Shulang's efforts, a blue-eyed woman wearing a blue off-shoulder dress and long brown hair kindly reminded Dong Shulang, and said with regret, "It's a pity, such a handsome guy, it's such a waste after melting you." TSK. It seems that Zeomai has made full preparations this time. If you don't handle it carefully, it will be dangerous. Facing the other party's words, Dong Shulang did not waver at all, and still observed the changes around him slowly, alerting the other party's sneak attack. This woman is not a simple character. She can stand out from the blood mist, if you only pay attention to her appearance. In the end, there may be nothing left. Boiling release, acid rain technique. Without giving Toshiro more time to prepare, Mitorumi directly launched her own ninjutsu, and her move was extremely ruthless. Using the water source at the edge of the battlefield, she directly created a large area of drizzling rain, covering all the fog she created. With the corrosiveness of these acid rains, as long as they are touched by a little bit, they can make the opponent suffer from excruciating pain. If they are not handled properly, they will end up with amputation. I said, if Zeomai doesn't change her temper, she will not be able to get married. I think there is no man who can withstand Zeomai's passion except me. Although she was teasing, she was very cautious in dealing with the opponent's attack. There was no way, If she was a little careless, she would really regret it. Fire release. Uzumaki of floating flames. She formed a few hand seals with both hands smoothly, then put her hands together, and began to control her ninjutsu carefully, so that it could play the best effect. As this ninjutsu was performed, with Toshiro as the center, a circular wall of fire with a diameter of nearly 10 meters rose up, began to burn fiercely, and emitted intense heat. This was not the end. Under Toshiro's exquisite chakra control, the rising walls of fire began to climb up into the air. A huge and towering pillar of flame was formed, and with Toshiro's control, this pillar of flame, while illuminating the surrounding area with an orange-yellow color, would continue to rotate with Toshiro's control. It was like a huge vortex, driving the surrounding airflow, water vapor, and raindrops to rotate and gather with its rhythm. Thus, all the water vapor filled with Mei's chakra, used to shield his sight and perception, and the boiling raindrops that attacked him, were gathered together and burned to ashes. After evaporating all the annoying fog and boiling raindrops around, this ninjutsu did not stop its changes. After climbing to the top, the rotating flames gathered again and changed into a huge dragon of flames, rushing towards Mei, who had just revealed her figure. The astonishingly high temperature and overwhelming momentum caused Mei and her companions who were facing this fire ninjutsu to change their faces slightly. Water ninjutsu, water array wall ice ninjutsu, ice condensation. Facing this scale of fire ninjutsu, unless you directly control a large amount of water flow and perform a high-level water ninjutsu, you can't resist it at all. But it takes time to control the water source in the distance, and the speed of the opponent's ninjutsu is too fast, so they don't have time at all. But fortunately, they are not facing it alone. Swish! The water array wall, which was cooled by the ice ninjutsu, successfully blocked Dong Shilang's fire ninjutsu. It was just the collision of ice and fire, the intersection of high temperature and cold, which successfully created a large area of water vapor nearby. Once again, the area was shrouded in a white mist. But fortunately, this mist was not created by chakra, so it was easy to dispel. Wind ninjutsu, typhoon passes. As Dong Shilang's ninjutsu were launched one after another, gusts of wind dispelled all the water vapor around, revealing the original appearance of this place. Mei really thinks highly of me. She actually summoned 2 blood ninjas to deal with me. I am really flattered. 2 other figures appeared beside Mei. The 3 of them formed an inverted triangle formation, vaguely surrounding Toshiro in the center. One of them had white hair and 2 red dots between his eyebrows. He was muscular and his steps were steady. He was a master of physical skills. Looking at the crazy expression on his face, it was clear that this ninja was from the Kaguya clan. As for the other person, Toshiro couldn't tell whether he was a man or a woman. He had long hair, a delicate face, straight eyebrows, a tall and well-proportioned figure, and a more neutral outfit. It was clear that he was a member of the Snow clan who had just performed the ice escape, but the clothes and appearance of the other person made it difficult to tell whether he was a man or a woman. There is nothing I can do about it. Since you are not like those ordinary ninjas who accept my kindness, I can only gather these companions, gather everyone's strength, and give you a warm kiss together. I hope you don't let me down. While saying this, Mei did not forget to use her green eyes to carefully look at Dong Shilang opposite her. This woman is really difficult to deal with. Looking at the smiling figure opposite him, Dong Shilang touched the non-existent cold sweat on his forehead. Any woman who can make a name for herself in the ninja world is not easy to mess with, and this woman is no exception. Chapter 247 Kaguya. Don't waste your time talking to him, just kill this guy. Before Toshiro could exchange a few words with the other party, the handsome white-haired guy who had been silent since he appeared on the stage, could not control his restless blood at this time, and rushed directly towards Toshiro. He had no intention of cooperating with his companions. This reckless man, Mei cursed secretly and did not forget to remind him. Be careful, the opponent's physical skills are very advanced. The 2 companions she called over this time, one was a young talent from the Snow clan, and the other was the battle maniac from the Kaguya clan. The one from the Snow clan was okay, but he had a cold personality, But this guy from the Kaguya clan had no sense of teamwork, and only knew how to fight and kill. She even suspected that the brain matter in the other party's head had degenerated completely, leaving only muscles. Boiling style, boiling blood technique. Although thinking this in her mind, Maitarumi's hands did not slow down. After performing this ninjutsu, she cooperated with the opponent to attack Toshiro, and at the same time, she did not forget to say, "Shimizu, I will go to help Kaido. You come to cover the two of us." Yes, the member of the Snow Clan named Shimizu simply answered Maitarumi's words, and then stared at the changes in the field, while forming seals with his hands, as if performing some ninjutsu. Clang! Blocking the Kaguya clan member opposite with a knife, Toshiro dodged the fist of Meitarumi by the side with the weapon transformed from his hand bones. If you only think that the opponent is a ninjutsu-type ninja, you are totally wrong. After performing the boiling blood technique, Maitarumi's strength and speed have been significantly improved. Although it is not as strong as a monster, it can be judged from the opponent's fist style that the opponent's physical skills are not comparable to those of ordinary jonin. Clang, clang, clang. Dong Shilang felt that he could not continue to be so passive after continuously resisting the attack of this man called Kaido and guarding against the sneak attack of Meitarumi. It would not be good for him to continue to entangle like this. The Sharingan in his eyes turned, and a unique illusion of the Sharingan was used to attack this guy with a crazy expression and who did not even defend much when attacking. Even if the opponent was prepared, he still let the opponent fall into the illusion through the refraction of the water molecules in the air. And Kaguya Kaido, who was hit by Dong Shilang's Sharingan illusion, kept stabbing forward and stood still. In his spiritual space, it was another scene. His whole person, at this time, turned into a paper man without thickness, standing on a huge stone suspended in the air. His body was floating, as if it had no weight. Starting from the ankles, clusters of flames slowly rose, burning his body, making his whole body in the flames, being burned repeatedly. Moreover, this burning is not just like other illusions, which only create a simple illusion and do not cause any harm to the person. Kaguya Kaido can feel that as these flames burn, his spirit is also bearing the opponent's attack, and this feeling is as if his own mental power is also burning on fire. His face began to twist and deform involuntarily, revealing a horrible expression. Oops, this idiot. Although he wanted to let it go, after all, this was his companion who was invited to deal with the enemy. Mai still gritted her teeth and attacked Toshiro's Jr., trying to create opportunities for his companions. Of course not this idiot with only muscles in his brain. Secret technique, magic mirror. Looking at the smooth ice crystal that suddenly appeared in front of him, Toshiro did not continue to swing his sword to chop it just by looking at its thickness. This ice mirror, which was completely created by the opponent's bloodline limit, was incredibly thick, more than 1 meter thick. It was not a magic mirror at all, but a big block of ice. Even if he wanted to break through this obstacle with one sword and attack Kaido behind the ice mirror, it would take some time. In addition, there was Mai chasing behind him, and the fist went from the opponent's hand. The opponent used the ninjutsu of boiling escape to make his blood boil, and the punch he threw had a bit of the effect of super strength. If he resisted directly, it would not be a good choice. Bang! He turned sideways and used his free left hand to knock back the attacking Mai with one punch. Compared with super strength, the opponent's boiling escape was still a little behind. After repelling the opponent, Toshiro prepared to continue to finish off. Without this guy from the Kaguya clan getting in the way, it would be much easier to deal with these two opponents. But what Toshiro did not expect was that this member of the Snow Clan named Shimizu did not choose to rescue his companions. The blood mist policy of the Hidden Mist Village made him not care about his companions at all. Instead, he took advantage of Toshiro's fist to attack Mai and stabbed Toshiro in the back with a kunai in his hand. What a pity! His unexpected attack was blocked by the opponent's ninja sword in his right hand. Shimizu, who failed to succeed, merged into the magic mirror he created at this time, not giving Toshiro a chance to attack. Asshole! Seeing that her teammates did not take their lives seriously at all, Mai seemed to vent her anger and cursed, and rushed directly to Toshiro and entangled with him. Tsurumimai was helpless. This was the policy of her village. She had no way to blame Shimizu. The other party did nothing wrong. Perhaps because of Tsurumimai's curse, she felt a little embarrassed. At this time, another magic mirror appeared next to Kaguya Kaido. A white arm stretched out from it, pinched Kaguya Kaido's neck, and threw him far away, making him out of Tawashiru's attack range. The owner of this arm seemed to be a little disgusted with his companion who was full of muscles. After throwing him out, he flicked his arm in the air, as if his companion's stupidity would be transmitted to him along his arm. TSK. It's convenient to have your own teammates. Even this stubborn guy can live safely until now under the care of his companions while fighting with Meixiang. Tawashiro looked at the Kaguya clan member who was far away from him and said with some emotion, although the opponent's companion seemed to dislike him, he still saved this idiot in the end and did not let him die in vain at Tawashiru's hands. Chapter 248, Dissolution. Oh, I didn't expect that the Konoha ninja who worships the will of fire would also have such feelings. It's really surprising since Kaido, the idiot, was rescued by his companions. Tsurumimai didn't mind chatting with him for a while, so that she could relax her tired body. The opponent's physical skills were really difficult to deal with, not to mention his great strength, and the ninja sword in his hand. Every time he swung it, he had to be careful to deal with it. Teammate, of course I have some. It's just a pity that they are not here. The only tribe members who came to the water country camp this time were Shizui's group. However, their main task was to protect the future of the family, so naturally they didn't go with him. And the boss Orochimaru played the characteristics of a capitalist very well. He didn't equip him with any teammates, but just let him act alone. He couldn't even give up. In this kind of life-and-death battlefield, giving up? You're probably looking for death. What made him even more upset was that when he was carefully hiding his presence, he never expected to run into Meixiang, who had also hidden her own tracks. Of course, unlike Tawashiro, who was just slacking off, Meixiang was planning to find a suitable target so that she could strike a fatal blow. Well, it seems that your companion is very anxious. Looking at the white mist rising from the ninja sword, Tawashiro, who had originally planned to slack off, had to start dealing with the opponent's attack. Along with the cold mist on the sword, the ground where Tawashiro was standing also rose. There was also a large area of cold mist rising on it. Are you planning to use temperature to limit my mobility? How naive. Feeling the biting cold in his hands and the cold temperature under his feet, Tawashiro observed with his Sharingan and couldn't help but laugh. Akaya middle. As his own chakra burst out, a fierce flame began to burn on the ninja sword in his hand. He waved his arm. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A flaming whip with a length of nearly 20 meters and a diameter of nearly 2 meters materialized from Tawashiro's ninja sword. It was as if Tawashiro was holding not a ninja sword, but a flaming snake, which was winning and dancing in the air and choosing its prey as Tawashiro's arm moved. The bright flames it emitted and the whirring sound it made when it burned violently overwhelmed the sound of friction with the air. This guy is really exaggerating. No wonder I summoned the two of us to deal with him together. Looking at the swaying flaming snake, watching the other party coil up its body, blocking all of his attack angles, and breaking his ninjutsu that limited the other party's speed, Shimizu finally understood why Meixiang, who was called a genius girl and mastered both boiling escape and melting escape, summoned himself and Kaido next to him. Well, now it's my turn. If you're not careful, you'll really die. He swung his arm directly, and the long whip of fire, which relied on his own fine chakra control and superb fire attribute chakra properties, rushed directly to Kaguya Kaido, who had just struggled out of the illusion. The opponent was indeed a ninja with the blood of the Otsutsuki. After being hit by his attack, magic middle Iranui, he was able to recover his mobility so quickly. Should we say that the opponent is mentally tough? Or should we say that the opponent is a beast that acts on its own instincts? Water style middle water dragon bullet technique. Before Tawashiro's attack, a water dragon of the same size rose from the opponent's side, approaching Kaguya Kaido, who specializes in physical skills, and blocked Tawashiro's attack. How can it be so easy? Unlike those ninjutsu that are directly stimulated by chakra, and the power is basically determined after the spell is completed, Tawashiro's flame dance can continuously change its power as his chakra is input. Wrap around. As Tawashiro moved, the entire flame whip suddenly expanded, and even its length increased from about 20 meters to nearly 40 meters. It was like a hunting python, winding and wrapping around Kaguya Kaido, trying to wrap him in its body. At that time, even the hard bones made of corpse bones could not protect against the burning heat of the python. Lava River, seeing her companions in danger, Midorumi directly mobilized her chakra to create a large-scale lava river, rushing towards Tawashiro, who was casting a spell to control the flame whip in his hand. What a pity! Faced with this large-scale lava river, Tawashiro had to stop casting the spell, letting the flame snake dissipate in the air. Although this technique was incredibly powerful, its disadvantages were as obvious as its advantages. He needed to concentrate on controlling these flames. Once he was distracted, these exploding flames would be out of his control. He felt that developing new ninjutsu was really difficult. Kaido, you come to guard against the opponent's close-range attack. Shimizu and I will attack with ninjutsu. After performing this ninjutsu, Tsurumi did not naively think that she could defeat the bastard on the opposite side with a large-scale ninjutsu. Instead, she came to her companion's side, intending to use the advantage of numbers to directly use ninjutsu to defeat the opponent. This was also her original plan, but she did not expect that her companion was so anxious and attacked the opponent directly. Let's start. Shimizu, after signaling to her companion, Tsurumi began to make hand seals. They had two ninjas who were good at ninjutsu, and attacking one person on the opposite side was an advantage anyway. Lava release. Lava tsunami. Using the lava river she had just created, Tsurumi directly created a lava tsunami that was higher than the other wave and attacked Tawashiro and her companion. The member of the Snow Clan named Shimizu was not idle at this time and also used his own methods. Water style, rain of time. Ice style, ice and snow. Cold spike. Directly use water style ninjutsu to create a small range of rainfall. Before the raindrops fall on the magma, use your blood limit to transform the raindrops into crystal clear ice cones and shoot them towards Tawashiro. Although the power of an ice style ninjutsu is not very strong, once the number reaches a certain limit, even Tawashiro cannot completely ignore this ninjutsu. Especially since these two ninjutsu are large-scale offensive ninjutsu, he must be more careful in dealing with them. Chapter 249, Boiling Escape. Looking at the overwhelming magma on the ground and the overwhelming ice and snow spikes in the sky, Dong Xilang felt helpless. He just wanted to play on the battlefield, but how could he be so unlucky to meet this woman, Tsurumi? Originally, after a fight, it would be fine if they each went their separate ways. This woman kept chasing him. That's fine, but you actually shook her off. Isn't this an obvious foul? Water style, exploding water wave. Earth style, heavy rock technique. Facing this double attack, and both of them are formed by multiple chakra bloodline limits, Dong Xilang has no way to rely on a single technique such as fire style to take on the opponent's attack. He can only spend a lot of chakra to create such a large water style, on the one hand to resist the surging lava from the opposite side, and at the same time hide under the water to resist those senbon falling from the sky. TSK, using water jutsu to attack the mist ninja. I guess I'm the only Konoha ninja after the Nidaime. When launching this ninjutsu, Tawashiro somehow suddenly thought of his old rival, the Nidaime Hokage. His water jutsu was so advanced, and his family also contributed to it. Boom! Exclamation mark. Worried that his ninjutsu would not be able to withstand the lava tsunami of Midorumi, Tawashiro also performed a large-scale rock-heavy jutsu on the basis of the water-blasting wave. This made the impact of his water jutsu multiply. As for how he knew the rock-heavy jutsu, it would depend on his family's clan library. In addition to those bloodline ninjutsu, there are also secret jutsu that require special talents. Under the insight of the Sharingan, general ninjutsu basically has no secrets. TSK, TSK, TSK. As the water and lava converged, there was a deafening roar, followed by a series of hissing sounds from the high temperature and the water. Finally, a large amount of white water vapor, far more than usual, began to spread from the place where they fought. Sure enough, Tsurumi and that guy from the Snow Clan have different attributes. Hiding under the water, Toshiro felt the water temperature around him rise slightly, and knew that his idea was not wrong. Although he hid under the water and successfully avoided the numerous ice cones in the sky, the temperature of the water would still drop sharply after those ice cones fell into the water. But with the addition of melting style, these are not a problem. These melting styles helped him solve this problem very well. You actually blocked my attack with water style. Terumi Mai, who used melting style to attack Toshiro, did not expect that the other party would actually block her attack with water style, but she did not take it too seriously. Since the other party was hiding under the water, she must let him taste her passion. But she soon discovered the problem. She and Shimizu's ninjutsu clashed. The opponent's ice escape neutralized her high temperature very well. This was really unexpected, but she underestimated herself if she thought it was so easy to dodge her attack. Boiling escape middle. Acid. She opened her mouth slightly, and a large ball of emerald green thick liquid with a pungent acid smell came out of her mouth, falling on the surface of the water, dyeing the water green. Shimizu, Kaido, I'll go down and take a look first. You two don't worry, as if she was afraid that her companions, especially Kaido, could not wait. Midorumi also explained, these underwater are now full of my boiling escape acid. If you rashly touch it. After saying this, she dived into the water. As a mist ninja, she was still very confident in underwater combat. At this time, Toshiro, looking at the green water surface that was gradually spreading on the water, had a headache. What a mistake. I didn't expect this woman's boiling acid to work in water. This is a bit troublesome. He was too arrogant this time. He didn't use the sage mode. He faced the future 5th generation Mizukage and his two companions in his normal state. He might really capsize, but this woman actually dared to go directly into the water. Did she really think I couldn't do anything to her? Looking at the woman who was wearing a blue fishtail dress and swaying like a mermaid under the green acid, Toshiro didn't have any admiration at this time. Water style, water dragon. Just when Midorumi was about to perform a water style ninjutsu to provide cover for her attack, a flash of purple lightning interrupted her ninjutsu. At this time, underwater, starting from Toshiro, a trace of lightning was spreading in all directions with Toshiro as the center. It's thunder style, ground walking. Although she recognized the jutsu quickly, Midorumi only had time to perform an earth-attributed jutsu to wrap herself up completely to avoid the opponent's jutsu. Can you use the 5 jutsu of fire, wind, water, earth, and lightning smoothly? What an excellent man. She was wrapped in the huge stone ball she created. Although she temporarily blocked the opponent's lightning jutsu, she also lost her vision. At this time, losing her vision is a very dangerous thing. After feeling that the lightning jutsu outside stopped working, Midorumi did not hesitate and directly released the jutsu and appeared under the water. Before her eyes could adapt to the surrounding environment, a sense of danger came over her. Water jutsu? Water prison jutsu. A round ball with only a trace of outline visible underwater wrapped her whole body in it, making her a little breathless. Has the acid been solved by the opponent? Through the water prison jutsu, Midorumi easily found that the acid she cast was cracked by the opponent in some way. It's hard to bear to kill him. Looking at the man outside the water prison, Midorumi did not show any panic, but smiled at the Uchiha man and blew him a kiss. Is it a clone? Looking at the other party's posture, Toshiro had expected it. If he could capture Midorumi so easily, he would not be the future 5th Mizukage. The other party's position should be. Toshiro, who maintained the water prison technique, turned his head and cast his eyes on the rocks created by the other party to avoid the lightning release ninjutsu. The other party should have used these rocks and the cover of the clone in the water prison to successfully escape from his sight. What a cunning opponent. Chapter 250 Water Clone, Boiling Release, Corrosive Acid. Just as Toshiro was looking for the opponent's body, Midorumi appeared behind Toshiro. At the same time, she formed seals with both hands and performed her Kekkai Genkai boiling release again. Although she didn't know how the opponent cracked her boiling release, Midorumi still planned to give it a try, because this ninjutsu is really suitable for underwater use. Once it is spread out, The entire underwater area is her home court. The opponent will be in this acid liquid with a concentration that she can control. The final result is usually a corpse. Is this water prison jutsu? And a whirlpool, looking at the acid liquid in front of her, which had not spread far, it was controlled within a certain range by an invisible barrier. Midorumi was very surprised. She had never thought that her boiling release could be trapped within a certain range by a simple water prison jutsu and a whirlpool. You know, when ordinary ninjas perform water prison jutsu, they have to put their arms in the water to maintain this ninjutsu. But the guy opposite is obviously not one of them. Water style, water dragon bullet technique. Although her ninjutsu was restricted by her opponent, Midorumi was not the only one who could do it. She directly formed a seal and cast a giant water dragon bullet, attacking Toshiro. Unlike ordinary water dragon bullets, the water dragon bullet technique cast by Midorumi reached a length of nearly 70 to 80 meters, and because it was in the water, her figure was still looming. Boom! With the attack of the water dragon, Toshiro's figure exploded directly. Is it a water clone? As Toshiro's figure exploded, Midorumi realized that it was the opponent's clone, and it was a water clone from her village. However, before she could react, the impact of the explosion threw her out. What's going on? The explosion just now couldn't have been so powerful. After several somersaults in the water, Midorumi finally stabilized her body. Although she stabilized her body, the damage she suffered was greater than she expected. Even at the corners of her mouth, there were some bloodstains, but they were quickly diluted by the water flow, so they were not very obvious. Before she could figure out why she was so badly injured, a strong arm locked her neck. Her body coughed out a mouthful of air uncontrollably, forming a series of bubbles in the water, and Torimi was choked by the water for the first time. How is it? Do you need me to give you some fresh air and a hot wet kiss? Just as Torimi was struggling violently, a head came to her ear and whispered to her in a gentle tone, "Asshole, when I get out of this predicament, I will make this guy pay." After being interrupted by this guy, Torimi almost couldn't hold her breath and spit out all the air in her lungs. What made her even more angry was that this guy pressed his entire body against her back, not only locking her neck, but also wrapping his legs around her waist. Damn it, Toshiro didn't know what the other party was thinking. If he knew, he would definitely cry out for injustice. He did this just to be able to lock the other party's hands and prevent him from performing ninjutsu. As for the opponent's waist, that was just a side effect. Just as Toshiro's arms tightened and were about to strangle the future 5th generation Mizukage to death underwater, a white bone sword stabbed towards Toshiro's head. Toshiro turned his head to avoid the opponent's stab, and turned around with Torimi under him. It seems that your companions still care about your safety. After dodging this sneak attack, Toshiro said to Torimi, whose eyes were already rolled back. But at this time, Torimi was obviously unable to hear his words due to lack of oxygen. Ice release, ice thorns. Just when Toshiro was about to use Torimi as a human shield to see if the opposite mist ninja would care about her safety, the Snow Clan member named Shimizu successfully stopped Toshiro. Looking at the ice spikes slowly extending towards him, Toshiro had to give up his idea of killing Torimi. The ice spikes used by the opponent will definitely pierce through him without hurting Midorumi at all. What a pity. If I only give myself one more minute, Midorumi will die in less than 30 seconds. His last attempt to change Obito's fate failed. This time he met Midorumi, who was pestering him again. He originally planned to try to see if he could really kill her and change the plot, but he didn't expect that the opponent's 2 teammates would ruin it. Is there really such a thing as fate? Floating from the flood he just created, Toshiro began to think about these random things. Before he could figure out a reason, Midorumi and the other 2 slowly appeared. The flood Toshiro had just created had almost receded. Without his chakra to maintain it, the figures of Midorumi and the other 2 were quickly exposed. Although he had just used a prop similar to a scuba diving to inhale a lot of air, Midorumi still panted as soon as she appeared. Coupled with her soaked long skirt, plump figure, and pale face, a sickly soft beauty appeared on the other person. What a top-notch wet beauty. It's a pity that under the other person's long skirt, there is a tight fishnet-like body armor. Otherwise, this is really a full benefit. Why was the explosion just now so powerful? After taking a few breaths of fresh air, Midorumi finally recovered from the suffocation just now, and after recovering, she began to ask Dong Shilang why she was hit just now. Originally, according to her own estimation, the explosion of the other party's water clone would not cause much damage to her, but the result was indeed far beyond her expectations. The explosion of the other party's water clone not only hurt her, but also seriously injured her. The other party took advantage of this opportunity to lock her throat in one fell swoop. If it weren't for her companions who saw that the situation was not right and appeared in time, she might have died in the hands of the guy opposite. As for this question, you'll need a real passionate kiss in exchange for it. Unexpectedly, Midorumi would actually ask the question herself. While Toshiro was surprised, he did not forget to flirt with her. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.